If you've ever been thankful that football is back, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks. Yeah, I know the game didn't mean anything. I don't care. It's back, and I'm happy. Welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's PreMarket Playbook, where there's another reason to be happy. It's Friday, and we're almost there. It's almost mice down, drinks up time. One more session to get through, one more data print to get through. We're going to make some more money here today. We do have Mark Putrino coming on today. We're going to have Anne Marie on twice, I think. We're also going to have 13. It'll be the perfect way to send you off into your weekend here. Benzinga's pre-market playbook, the Friday edition for August 7th, 2026, begins right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. It's great to see a whole bunch of returning faces out there. I hope that you all had a wonderful rest of your Thursday. And if you enjoyed the football game half as much as I did, you had a good night. We're back for one more session before the weekend, and we're going to make it awesome. Remember, Fridays around here are Friday fun days. That's exactly what we're going to do. Peter, you are first here today. Early bird gets the worm. TGIF for sure. Indeed, it is. Crispy Biscuit, good morning. Welcome back. Billy, our human chat scanner, is popping off today already, folks. Popping off. Good morning, Billy. Good to see you again. Yes, that girl. Good morning. Happy Friday. Your handle just makes me excited. I can't control it. I just want to say it with enthusiasm. That's the mark of a good handle. Welcome back. Good morning and happy Friday. Solitary Soldier, good morning. Welcome back. Alan, good morning. Welcome back. Robert, good morning. Welcome back. Zach McCracken, good morning. 30-minute Ondas chart looks okay to everyone. Mine seems to be showing different prices. Yeah, I don't have it up in front of me, but I think it's fine. Try a refresh. What platform? Not enough context there. Don't know what to help you with. Jay Wild, good morning. Welcome back. Whisk, good morning. Welcome back. Richard Judge, good morning. Welcome back. Derek, good morning. It's great to see you again. Welcome back. Pot G, good afternoon. And good morning to the Benzi gang from Belgium. Let's go. Brett, great to see you again. Good morning. Harlugo, this will be your best day, Ryan. I mean, I hope so. That would be awesome. I am going to have a Barolo tonight, so that's going to be pretty sweet. We'll see. Harlugo, good morning. Welcome back. Ed, good morning. Over 35 and a half years. Got him. Good morning. I'll be honest with you, bro. I don't have any idea what you're talking about. But good morning. Welcome back. Producer, good morning. Welcome back. Matthew, good morning. Welcome back. Happy Friday indeed. Carmen from Romania. Let's go. Good afternoon to you, but good morning to the rest of the group from you. Bernhard, good morning. Welcome back. Carlos, good morning. Welcome back. TGIF, indeed. Kenneth, good morning. Welcome back. Just passing through. Good morning. Welcome back. Joseph, good morning. Welcome back. Let's get into it with SpaceX and Rocket Lab. I do have a SpaceX story for you. I'm sure we'll check out Rocket Lab at some point, but no new news on the wire for that. Liam, good morning. Welcome back. James, good morning. Welcome. HP Darkside Hemi, good morning and welcome back. Kush League, welcome back. Cynthia, welcome back. Local Guide. Foosball is the devil, Bobby. No, it isn't. That woman was straight up wrong. Graf, good morning. Welcome back. Tyler, good morning. Welcome back. Clayton, good morning. Welcome back. I see my K. What's up, y'all? Good morning. Welcome back. Linda, it's great to see you as always. Dimebag, welcome back. Barb, always good to see you. The over on the points. Ed. I didn't bet preseason, but you the real MVP. Glad you hit it. KRTS. Good morning. I don't know what language that is or what it's supposed to say, but I think it means good morning because of the sun emoji, which is pretty universal. Welcome and good morning. Borman. R. Borman. Is that Rob Borman? Maybe. Good morning. Welcome back. All right, folks, let's go ahead and get today kicked off with the stock market today. All right, green arrows across the board here today. S&P futures up 0.25%, Dow futures up 0.13%, NASDAQ leading the way higher, 0.55%. Also, oil's down a little bit as well, minus 0.74% on the crude futures there. Let's take a look at some cues from last session, as well as what we can expect today. Get you all set for the market. Sectors such as real estate, industrials, and materials led the losses on Thursday, though energy and healthcare bucked the trend to close higher. U.S. stock futures were mixed on Friday as the Dow Jones slipped and the S&P and NASDAQ indices rose following Thursday's lower close. Since then, they've all moved to the positive territory. Investors are expecting the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics July unemployment report before Friday's market open, where FactSet estimates total non-farm payrolls to rise by 97,500 and the unemployment rate to hold steady at 4.2%. This would mark an acceleration from June's gain of 57,000 jobs. Meanwhile, Iran and Oman were continuing negotiations on a proposed framework for the Strait of Hormuz that would allow the two countries to control the strategic shipping route. The 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.67%, and the 2-year bond was at 4.24%. The CME Group's Fed Watch Tool projections show markets pricing a 54.7% likelihood of the Federal Reserve hiking the current interest rates during its September meeting. Now, we've got several stocks in focus here for you today. And the first one, this is a cool one. This is Atlassian. The ticker is TEAM, ticker TEAM. It's the parent company of the program Jira. They surged 30.25% in the pre-market on Friday after the company reported better than expected fourth quarter financial results. The next stock on our list, this used to be a trade darling for our show, but boy, oh boy, has it fallen from grace. This is the Trade Desk. Ticker TTD plunged by 27.45% as it reported worse than expected second quarter financial results and issued soft third quarter revenue guidance. The next stock on our list is going to be Cloudflare. The ticker is NET, N-E-T. It rose 14.97% after reporting better than expected second quarter financial results and raising its fiscal year 26 guidance above estimates. Doximity is our next stock, ticker DOCS. It surged 71.1% after the company reported better than expected first quarter sales results and raised its fiscal year 27 sales guidance above estimates. The last stock on our list is a previous home run for our group. This is Sezzle, ticker SEZL. It declined 23.82% after the company reported second quarter financial results. All right, let's take a look at the SPY chart here. Now, I have been saying the last 2 days, we've had this great move that snapped our previous all-time high. This is a breakout. We continued to trade up. That breakout extended itself, all of that healthy stuff for upside traders. We made a new all-time high at 776.85, and for the last 2 days, we've pulled back. Now, my contention is that this has been a healthy pullback. This has actually been a good thing. It should not go straight up every single day. In fact, we should have some back and forth. And better still, if it makes a breakout, it doesn't just give it all back in a couple of sessions. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. Now, this morning, we're actually a little bit higher here today. So it'll be very interesting to see if this makes kind of like a momentum move and then a curl back to those highs. That's what we're going to be looking for here today in terms of its shape. Key levels, they're very, very clear. 776.85, your all-time high. That's going to be an upside resistance and key level. Downside level here, 760.28 is going to be an important one. That's the previous all-time high breakout level. Now, if you want another level to take a look at, I would say the low of yesterday's candle, which comes in at 767.46. That would also be a key level here today. If we look at the SPY, you can see exactly where we're looking at. That 46 comes from the one wick, but otherwise, this area in the 767 handle provided support yesterday. If we do reverse and move down, we would want to see if that provides support here again today. If it cracks, probably looking at 760. Now, one more thing to add here real quick. One of the things that we have been talking about when it comes to breakouts is that when we move above a level, whether it's a moving average or a horizontal price level like this, we want to see 3 closes above that level. That should firm up if that level is now resistance or support, depending on which way the market is moving. We've had 3 closes above the breakout level, so we should now assume that 760.28 is going to be pretty good support. That means if the market does in fact come in, we really want it to hold that breakout level. Even if it gives everything back, comes into 760.28, even if it overshoots it a little bit and then closes above it, that would also be good for a potential upside swing. So I don't know what's going to happen here in the future, but Something to keep in mind if you're looking to trade this. All right, let's take a look at some insights from analysts and see what they have to say about today. And then we'll take a look at the upcoming economic data, although we've already talked about it a little bit. Luis Alvarado, co-head of global fixed income at Wells Fargo Investment Institute, views the current trajectory of the U.S. stock market and broader economy through the lens of shifting capital demands, particularly surrounding the massive funding needs of artificial intelligence. While investors historically treat AI primarily as an engine for equities, Alvarado emphasizes that that funding the necessary infrastructure, such as data centers, the power generation for those data centers, and semiconductor manufacturing, requires immense long-term capital. This heavy financing need directly competes with large federal deficits and elevated U.S. Treasury bond issuance for investor dollars. Alvarado highlights that while AI could ultimately boost productivity and long-term economic growth, markets must first finance that expansion. As a result, rising capital competition could put upward pressure on long-term yields and term premiums. As Alvarado points out, quote, investors often view AI as an equity story. Increasingly, it may become a bond story as well, end quote. He went on to say, in the months ahead, we believe one of the most important forces shaping the bond markets may be the growing competition between data centers and deficits, end quote. So we'll see which one wins that battle. I know that this is what makes a market. In our morning show and our afternoon show, we have no shortage of folks on both sides of the aisle here. There are folks that think this market is overpriced and we are due for an epic crash. We have folks that think we're due for a pullback. We've got others that think we're going to break out here. And frankly, I could see all three, to be quite honest with you. We have Tom Lee not long ago calling a move down towards 6,000 on the SPY, maybe not exactly 6, but a move down, and then a move higher that actually takes us above 8,000 by year end. So there are calls all over the board when it comes to this one. Now, upcoming U.S. economic data, we do have July's non-farm payroll employment report, unemployment rate, and hourly earnings data. That'll be released here in about 18 minutes. We have June's consumer credit data will be out by 3 later today, although that should have no impact on the market. All right, first story here is going to be on one of our earnings plays. We've actually traded this stock before. Several of you folks have even asked about this stock before. This is going to be Datadog. Ticker is DDOG, and you can't go wrong starting your morning with a story that involves dog, even if it's a company. Datadog beats earnings, raised guidance, but DDOG stock still plunged 19% as Wall Street says it all comes down to one customer. So we'll see how the report is. You tell me if you think there's a bounce play here today. Despite reporting a massive 36% revenue surge and raising its full-year guidance for the second quarter of 2026, Datadog, ticker DDOG, saw its stock plummet 19% on Thursday as weak third-quarter guidance tied to a single major client sparked investor panic. Futurum Equities' Shea Ballure observed that the massive software sector sell-off, quote, comes down to one customer, end quote. Datadog delivered a robust second quarter with $1.12 billion in revenue and adjusted earnings of 65 cents per share, clearing Wall Street estimates. However, the company's third quarter guidance implied a deceleration to roughly 29% year-over-year revenue growth. Management attributed this slowdown to its largest customer, a leading AI company with 9-figure contract using 17 Datadog products, reducing its usage starting in the third quarter despite a recent renewal. While the CEO, Olivier Pomel, refused to explicitly name the client on the earnings call, the leading AI company is widely believed by Wall Street analysts to be OpenAI. Quote, the entire reaction comes down to one customer, end quote. That was Shea Ballure highlighting the inherent risks of Datadog's consumption-based business model where large enterprises treat cloud and AI workloads like a utility bill. Addressing the investor anxiety during the earnings call, Datadog CEO defended the core business, stating, quote, we don't control what's happening to a specific customer, end quote. Pomel noted that the company chose to fully de-risk its guidance to prevent this isolated usage reduction from overshadowing broader business momentum. Beyond a single customer headwind, Datadog's underlying fundamentals remain remarkably strong. Paulo emphasized that revenue growth for non-AI customers accelerated to the high 20% range. That's up from 18% a year ago. Furthermore, Datadog now serves over 750 AI customers, including all top 10 of the top 10 AI leaders. The company is also leaning heavily into automation, launching a suite of new capabilities for its Bits AI at its recent Dash conference. Paulo underscored the strategic shift on the call, declaring, quote, the future is observability. The future of observability is not just observing, it's fixing, end quote. Well, the steep pullback reflects the market's high expectations and expensive valuation multiple. Bloomberg concluded that if the rest of the business continues accelerating, quote, the sell will look excessive in hindsight, end quote. So let me know, is Datadog a bounce candidate here? Looks like it printed, let me go back to the chart here real quick. We'll take a look at it together. DDOG, here's what it looks like. You can see we're kind of in no man's land, although I would expect some support down at 217 if it continued to pull further. But if we look inside here, this is what it looks like. So we had the move down yesterday in the pre-market, and then it kind of stayed steady here, and it's kind of consolidated, and it looks like it's okay here today. So part of me wonders if it holds this 221 area, if we can maybe break yesterday's intraday highs. I'm not as concerned about the pre-market highs as I am about the intraday highs. That value is up here at 243, let's call it. Move above that, we might be into the gap here on Datadog. All right, next story. I had to include this one, folks. There's just nothing I could do. Michael Saylor says ChatGPT helped Strategy raise $15 billion for Bitcoin purchases. ChatGPT. Let's take a look and see what's going on here. Strategy Incorporated, ticker MSTR, their co-founder, Michael Saylor, said OpenAI's ChatGPT helped Strategy design a novel preferred stock structure that ultimately enabled it to raise roughly $15 billion to purchase additional Bitcoin. Speaking on the Diary of a CEO podcast on Thursday, Saylor said he turned to ChatGPT after Strategy had largely exhausted traditional fundraising options, including equity offerings and convertible bonds, as it sought additional capital to expand its Bitcoin holdings. Saylor said the company needed to create an entirely new type of security that sat somewhere between common equity and debt. He described using ChatGPT to explore different structures for a preferred stock, combining elements of financial engineering, securities law, and digital assets. Quote, we went to the AI, end quote. That was from Saylor. He went on to say, I started exploring how do I design a preferred stock, end quote. The result was ticker STRK, a convertible preferred stock that Saylor said was backed by the company's Bitcoin strategy. He added that neither lawyers nor investment bankers had seen a similar structure before, often responding, quote, no one's ever done it before, end quote. No word on if there's a reason for that yet. Saylor said ChatGPT helped the company refine the security's design, including a variable monthly dividend mechanism intended to keep the instrument trading near its $100 par value. He said the AI encouraged the team to pursue ideas that traditional advisors viewed as unconventional. Quote, they never thought to do it, end quote. And that was Saylor referring to the financial industry. When asked which AI model he used, Saylor replied, ChatGPT, OpenAI, end quote. Saylor went on to say that the resulting financing vehicle became the year's largest IPO at the time, raising about $2.5 billion before Strategy later sold billions more through additional offerings. Altogether, he said the company issued roughly $15 billion worth of credit instruments. Last month, Strategy reported second quarter revenue of $122.39 million, narrowly missing analyst consensus estimates of $122.91 million. During the quarter ended June 30th, the company raised approximately $8.41 billion in gross proceeds, followed by an additional $1.28 billion between July 1st and July 26th, 2026. Easy for me to say. So what do you think about that? Using ChatGPT to create a new preferred stock. Investment bankers have never seen this before. I've stumbled across something great. We'll see how it shakes out. It's good times. We live in wild times here, that's for sure. All right, next story here. This is going to be SpaceX. SpaceX, remember, yesterday we had the unlock happen. 20% of the shares unlock so people can take gains on it. I gave you quotes from the people that I know that are running books that have SpaceX in it. They told you they weren't going to sell. SpaceX ended up trading up yesterday. SpaceX stock survives its first massive float expansion, but is it out of the woods yet? Would love to get the group's opinion on this as well. Space Exploration Technology Corporation, or SpaceX, ticker SPCX, defied fears of heavy selling pressure on Thursday, rebounding 6.14% to close at 114.92, even as its first post-IPO lockup expiration significantly expanded the stock's free float. However, while SpaceX stock survived the initial release of 911.5 million shares, a series of staggered lockup tranches extending through December leaves investors questioning whether the SpaceX stock price is truly out of the woods. Market expectations pointed toward a steep decline on August 6th, when approximately 911.5 million shares held by employees and early investors became eligible to sell. Now, really quick, we talked about this yesterday in the moment, and it's important there because that last sentence there saying that the market expectations pointed towards a steep decline. Well, you know what happens when the expectations all point to the same thing? Generally speaking, the opposite's going to happen. This is, we talked to Mark Putrino, who we're going to be talking to coming up pretty soon. He always shows that sentiment survey where it has a very similar type of mechanism going on. Look, we saw it yesterday in SpaceX. There was no getting around it. The block, valued at roughly $104.8 billion based on Thursday's close, expanded the potential tradable pool of shares from 4.9% to 11.8%. Instead of collapsing, the SpaceX stock price recovered strongly from Wednesday's 13.6% drop. Quote, with the unlock of so many shares, 911 million shares, we expect such incredible volatility, end quote. That came from John Taves, managing director at the Post Oak Group, and he told that to Schwab Network. He goes on to say, quote, but it's been kind of holding steady. This is a long-term investment, a long-term hold, end quote. Despite the resilient trading session, Wall Street experts emphasize that SpaceX stock still faces a lingering supply overhang. The August 6th unlock represented only the first tranche, releasing up to 20% of eligible insider shares. Additional 7% tranches will unlock every 15 to 20 days through October, followed by an additional 28% release after the third quarter earnings and a full 180-day lockup expiration, which occurs on December 8th of this year. Speaking to Schwab Network, CFRA research equity analyst Keith Schneider warned that Thursday's unlock, quote, was just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's going to become available to be sold, end quote. He added that insider sales, quote, could be a big pressure on the stock going forward, end quote. Although long-term bulls point to accelerating Starlink profitability and AI revenue growth, near-term sentiment remains weighed down by a massive $18.4 billion quarterly capital outlay. Remember, 6 times the revenue that they get on AI. In his piece assessing the aftermath of the stock unlock for Abo News, Peter Williams noted that the recovery above the 125 mark would be the initial signal of weakening selling pressure, but the stock would ultimately need to cross its 135 IPO price to break the broader downtrend. So there you go, folks. 135, definitely going to be one of your key levels there. That's the initial IPO price. Honorable mention to the 125 spot right before it. All right. I think I might have timed this perfectly, folks. We might be in really good shape here. Next story here. T-Mobile CEO just dismantled SpaceX's Starlink mobile ambitions. Remember, we heard on the call that Elon Musk was coming for T-Mobile. They're coming for Verizon. We'll see. T-Mobile CEO, I don't think so. All right, let's take a look and see what's going on here. T-Mobile US, or TMUS, CEO Srini Gopalan dismissed the threats from Elon Musk's planned Starlink mobile service as exaggerated, questioning why consumers would leave established carriers even as SpaceX promises higher bandwidth, satellite coverage, and a terrestrial network aimed at winning customers from T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon Communications. That's ticker T and VZ, in addition to TMUS. Quote, you've got to ask the question of what is the gap in the market that they're looking to serve, end quote. Gopalan told the Financial Times that on Thursday. He went on to say, why would a customer buy a new cellular service? Where do they go? What's their differentiation? It's clearly not having a broad network, end quote. Oh, I don't know, being able to use your phone anywhere, including remote areas, and having high-speed internet that doesn't get impacted, you don't overpay. I don't know, just a couple of things off the top of my mind, Srini. SpaceX's President Gwynne Shotwell said Starlink intends to become, quote, a true mobile service, end quote, and expects to acquire quite a few customers from the big three. Reuters reported earlier this week that SpaceX bought 65 megahertz of EchoStar spectrum, that's ticker ECHO, for $19.6 billion through two deals, strengthening its push into a market that has already pressured traditional telecom stocks. Musk said Starlink's planned terrestrial network would probably offer better connectivity and, quote, higher bandwidth than what's currently available from cellular providers, end quote, like I was just saying. Shotwell said SpaceX plans to launch Starlink mobile satellites next year and start service by the end of 2027. Analysts say matching incumbent networks will be difficult. New Street Research analyst David Barden told Reuters earlier this week that it, quote, makes no sense, end quote, for SpaceX to replicate networks built over 3 decades with about 1,000 megahertz of spectrum using only 65 megahertz. Gopalan argued satellite service will remain complementary to terrestrial networks. T-Mobile already uses Starlink through T-Satellite, which connects compatible phones outside normal cellular coverage. The FCC has authorized SpaceX to provide supplemental coverage using T-Mobile spectrum and approved 7,500 additional Gen 2 satellites in January to support enhanced mobile connectivity. The partnership has widened. T-Mobile launched Super Broadband in April, combining its 5G network with Starlink backup for remote businesses. T-Satellite also supports apps including WhatsApp, Google Maps, and X in dead zones. That evolution builds on T-Mobile's earlier Starlink-powered satellite data rollout and comes as SpaceX pushes Starlink deeper into direct-to-phone connectivity. T-Mobile added 277,000 postpaid net accounts in the second quarter of 2026, beating the consensus estimates, though additions fell 13% from a year earlier. The company expects roughly 250,000 postpaid net account additions in the third quarter as it migrates customers to newer, higher-priced plans, with about 60% of new customers currently choosing the most premium offerings. Quote, I think the most understood thing from an investor perspective is the amount of growth left in this business, end quote. That came from Gopalan. He went on to say, quote, and I think we're ridiculously undervalued right now, end quote. All right, last story here, and this is just going to be a quick one. Then we'll get Mark Putrino on here. This is going to be about the AI CapEx boom growing nearly twice as fast as the mid-2000 housing bubble. This comes from, Torsten Slok. We've talked a lot. We've quoted him quite a bit. We've had Tim Melvin say some very nice things, so I figured this might be a good way to wrap up the news block here. The expansion of artificial intelligence infrastructure is accelerating at an unprecedented rate, and according to a recent analyst, data center investment growth is building at close to twice the pace of the mid-2000s housing boom. This breakneck speed presents a severe macroeconomic threat if AI demand falters and triggers a sudden market reversal. While the current AI capital expenditure build-out remains less than half the peak size of the housing bubble in total economic share, its sheer velocity is entirely unmatched. The analysis by Torsten Slok, partner and chief economist at Apollo Global Management, points out that data center capex adds 1.7 percentage points in just 2 years, from 1.4% of GDP in 2025 to 3.1% in 2027, or roughly 0.85 percentage points per year, end quote. For historical context, the housing market's most rapid expansion phase, spanning from 2002 to 2005, grew at just 0.5 percentage point annually. The telecom and fiber build-out of the late 1990s expanded at a mere 0.15 percentage points per year. Consequently, quote, the AI cycle is building at close to twice the pace of the housing boom at its fastest, end quote. Consensus forecasts project hyperscaler capex will sustain a level of approximately 3% of GDP annually from 2027 through 2029. In terms of cumulative change which directly impacts GDP growth, the data center expansion represents a massive 2.5 percentage points, from 0.6% of GDP in 2013 to 3.1% in 2027. According to Slack's analysis, this would make it the bigger capex cycle compared to the previous historical booms. Now, Slack argues the primary macroeconomic risk is not the massive investment itself, but in the potential for rapid contraction. The analysis drew direct parallels to the 2008 financial crisis, noting that housing's dramatic unwind from 6.2% of GDP in early 2006 to 3% by the end of 2008, quote, is what made that recession severe, end quote. Conversely, the telecom boom's smaller reversal produced a relatively mild recession. Quote, a cycle that builds at 0.85 percentage points a year can unwind at a similar pace, and that, rather than the build-out itself, is the macro risk if AI demand disappoints, end quote. This stark assessment recently garnered attention from prominent investor Michael Burry, who highlighted the three great charts on social media. So we'll see what we get. We'll see if we do get that rapid contraction that leads to a recession. We shall see. All right, now we're going to go to Mark Putrino here, but I did just see that the market popped again. We expected some data. Let's look at that data. U.S. unemployment rate for July, 4.1 versus the 4.2. How about that? A little light on that number. Manufacturing payrolls for July, 5K versus 4K. The previous was 3. U.S. average hourly earnings month over month for July, 1/10 versus the 3/10 estimate. Non-farm payrolls for July, minus 23K versus the 85K estimate. U.S. participation rate for July, 61.4% versus 61.5% prior. USA average hourly earnings year over year for July, 3.2 versus the 3.5. Private non-farm payrolls for July, 30K versus the 78K estimate. The 30K was the prior read. And U.S. averagely hourly earnings year over year for July revises the prior from 3.5 to 3.4. So market traded up on that. Perhaps there's less fears of a rate hike and maybe a hold steady. Early, we'll let this settle out here. Early indications that the market likes it. We're basically battling with 772 right now. Looks like we went to about 772 and a half just there a second ago. All right, folks, it's Friday fun day. It is time for the one and only Mark Putrino. Mark, good morning. Happy Friday. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing really good, man. I'm extremely excited for the weekend. I watched a football game last night, Mark. I watched a football game last night. It was great.
No. Preseason football should be canceled. It's so stupid.
No, it should. Mark, look, you're so great. You have all this great knowledge, and you come in with a flaming hot take like that. It's like, look, I have been waiting all summer. I didn't care about the teams. Arizona, Carolina, who cares?
Yeah,
who cares?
I hear you,
Football
man.
was played. I understand. Preseason means
nothing. I have made a vow to myself probably 15 or 20 years ago that I will not watch any more preseason football games because you know what happens? It's just important players get hurt. Why don't they just add a couple games to the regular season? You know, that's my thought.
Yeah, the Players Union would have some other thoughts about that. But nonetheless, I'm just happy it's back. We're going to go. This is my favorite time where we get to golf on the weekend and there's football. And it's like, okay, slow down. A lot of good stuff going on.
I've decided that I've come to this major crossroads in my life. And I just want free stuff. So today on your show, I'm announcing that I'm running for Senate in the state of Connecticut as a Democratic Socialist.
Okay, Mark.
You know, why work when I could just get everything for free, right?
That's not the ethos that we bring to this show. I'm afraid you're going to have to work. I'm afraid you're going to have to work. Yeah, Brian, how about those Cubs? How about that game? I don't want to get too into sports here before Mark even brings up his screen share. And right on cue, here we go. Mark, what do you have for us?
All right. Well, markets keep moving along. One thing I want to talk about, and I just think it's really interesting because if you talk about like textbook chart patterns, let's just go take a look at gold and see what's been going on here because we could be on the verge of a bit of a breakout here. So just a couple things now, right? Here is your classic ascending triangle pattern. These patterns tend to be pretty reliable. And what this illustrates is that the sellers are hanging out up here they're just, the sellers are like, yeah, whatever. If the buyers come, they come. If not, we don't care. We're not aggressive. Or, we don't care. We can be patient. At the same time, as time is passing, the buyers are becoming more and more aggressive. They're coming in at higher prices. So this pattern is a graphical illustration of complacent sellers and aggressive buyers. Now, the reverse of the ascending triangle is the descending triangle. And this is where it's the buyers who are patient and the sellers who are getting more aggressive. The buyers are willing to hang out, but the sellers are coming in at lower and lower levels. They're getting more aggressive. Now, markets are all about supply and demand. People forget that. People think that, this is like math or calculus or whatever, but it's really not. It's really just about reading the crowd and reading the market. So the market's going up here because there's more people that want to buy gold than there are who want to sell. So the buyers got to pay up. They got to be aggressive. They got to be willing to outbid each other, and that drives the prices up. So when we got to here, for whatever reason, this is where the sellers come out of the woodwork, and now all of a sudden the buyers can buy all they want, and the price stops going up. And just like that, it turns, and now there's more gold for sale than there is to buy. So when this went down, some of the people who sold here were happy they did. But when this resistance broke, some of the people who sold here get seller remorse, and they say, gee, I made a mistake. If I can, I'm going to buy my gold back at the same price I sold it at. So when it drops back to the level that had been resistance, what was resistance can turn into support because of remorseful sellers placing buy orders. Now, over here, we get support again. People who sold here regret it when the price goes higher, and they go to buy back here. So seller remorse can turn what was resistance into support. It can also keep support intact. Now, another emotion that we see a lot in the markets is buyer remorse, right? So when the support breaks and the price goes down, a lot of the people who bought here now experience buyer's remorse, and they say, all right, well, I made a mistake. I'll hold on to my losing position, but if I can ever sell and get out at break even, I will. So when the price returns to the level that had been a support level, it becomes a resistance level. Now, people who bought this, is now we have buyer remorse again manifested in a different way. So seller's remorse can turn resistance into support. It can keep support intact. Buyer remorse can turn support into resistance because people who bought here get under and they're going to sell to get out at break even. Now, the reason why gold has stalled out right here, and if you look really closely, we're pretty much where yesterday's high trade was, because people that bought here are going to sell here to try to get out at break even. So this is just a perfect illustration of how in financial markets, certain price levels have more importance than others. I don't know why this level became important here, but I know why it was important here and here and here, and why it's important now. On the downside too, you see a similar thing, just on a smaller time frame. Support at a former support level. Now, if this breaks out, right? A breakout means you clear the resistance. You get above the resistance and you stay there. You got to be a little bit patient sometimes. But if you get above this resistance, what that tells us is that, like right down here, this was a breakout. If you get above that resistance, it tells us that the sellers who created that resistance are gone. They've left the market. They've canceled their orders. They've finished their orders. Regardless, a breakout is a graphical illustration of supply leaving a market. And if the market's out of equilibrium, then it'll be in a situation where buyers, once again, need to outbid each other, and that will drive the price higher. Really interesting chart here, because sometimes people think that this technical analysis sometimes is like astrology or tea leaves, and for a lot of people it is, because they don't really know what they're doing. But this chart here is just a perfect illustration of so many of the dynamics that we look at when it comes to these price levels.
Yeah, and Mark, I highlighted this comment, but I'll highlight it again because I think there's a lesson here. Alan here saying, "Amazing, Mark. I was never taught this stuff, but you're confirming the way I see it. Graph. I like how you add the emotional terms to it, and I think that that's important because you've talked at length about how psychology is really the most important thing. What good is all of this stuff if you do not attach the psychology to it?"
Yeah, I
And
mean,
you know, and that's exactly what you're doing here. That's why it makes sense, Alan. That's great.
yeah, that's we have to remember what the market is. It's hard to picture it when we're looking at these charts, but if you think about, you know, the old days, this is really what the market is. It's a bunch of it's an auction market. It's people bidding undercutting each other, or walking away from each other. I can tell you from my institutional trading days. Let's just pick a random stock. So let's just say I have an order to buy. This looks pretty. I have this written down actually because I'm looking at this for a potential reversal here. So let's talk about this. Now let's just pretend that I'm in my glory days back when I was a trader, and I get an order like right around here to buy this stock. You know, get an order to buy whatever 100,000 shares or 50,000 shares. Now, if you remember from last week, right? There's the buy side and the sell side. The buy side are the places that pay commissions, like hedge funds or retail traders, to get things done. The broker dealers are the sell side. They get commissions. They want to raise business. So the brokers are continuously calling the buy side firms trying to get business from them. So I might be buying this with a broker A, right? And then I get a call from broker B like, hey, I'm a huge seller of Motorola. Are you doing anything over here? And I say, no. You know, I just lie because lying is very common in the trading world. I say, no, I'm not doing anything. Thanks. Then I call up my other broker, broker A, and say, hey, let's cancel that order for a while, or let's lower the price. Let's back away. So it's really just about reading this herd here. Now, like that's what, so what used to go on down here now goes on here, but it's just in the electronic markets. In the old days, it was you would give the order to your floor broker, and these are guys who are all working institutional trading orders, and their job is to move the stock or to get the order done without adversely impacting the price of the stock. So they go into the crowd, and let's just say you go into a crowd and you want to buy MSI, and there's 30 guys who want to sell, and there's one person who wants to buy. That buyer is going to back away because he knows sooner or later those sellers are going to start undercutting each other. So the way it works now is you would call your broker, and instead of them calling the floor, they would call, or they would have what we know as a market maker, someone who works at their firm, execute the order. But it's the same thing. It's going out into the market, trying to read the market, read which way the herd is going. I have I have a student who said a pretty funny comment the other day, but it's true. So anyway, this particular person is an engineer. He's been like an engineer his whole life. And he's like, you know, Mark, as an engineer, I always like to try to figure things out. And I have studied the market for 6 months now, and I've come to the conclusion that the market is not rational. And it's like, yes, you got
Took
it.
him 6 months, huh?
Some people go their whole life without ever figuring that out. The market isn't rational because people aren't rational. And the market is just a collection of people, right? The people we just saw on the floor down there. It's the same thing. It's the outbidding. Is if people didn't have emotions, then trading wouldn't exist. It's emotions that get these things going. Overdone in one way, then overdone in the other way, then overdone back again. But here we have a perfect example of another important level. This is Motorola. Now notice back here, it first became resistance. I don't know why the sellers came out of the woodwork here, but all of a sudden there were more shares for sale than to buy, and we went lower. When that happened, some of the people up here, they get buyer remorse, and they say to themselves, I shouldn't have bought that. It was a mistake. If I can get out of this thing at break even, I will. So when it gets back to their level, they place sell orders. And if there are enough of them, that can make what was resistance become resistance again. Same thing happens here. People buy here and they're selling here. Now, we had this big move yesterday, and I'm not even sure why. Maybe it was earnings or something. Was it earnings? Yeah, it was earnings. But look at where it stalled out. So even though the earnings were great, and I didn't look at them, but even though the earnings were obviously really good, you still got to pay attention to these market principles of like price levels. I mean, it didn't stall out here by a random coincidence. It stalled out there because it's an important price level. So this, just to get exact here, this is, we'll call it 480. So we got to 474. So I am watching this for a potential reversal, meaning thinking about buying puts on it. Because if it starts to reverse, they could get down to about here. Now, a lot of times people say, how do you anticipate trades? Well, you don't anticipate it. Having an opinion or trying to anticipate something is a very dangerous thing for a trader. What you do is you need to be a reactionary. You need to react to what the market is doing. Now, what would be my trigger? So right, the way I look at this is we're at the horse race and the starter has said on your mark, get set, but they haven't said go. The go would be if this RSI line turns lower. That's where I would pull the trigger and go find whatever puts I want to buy. And it's the same thing on the downside. When you get stocks, let's look at Microsoft. This is a really good example. When you get, so what we just saw is a case of when stocks get overbought and they get to resistance, they tend to sell off. Actually, look at that. You can see that at Microsoft right here. But on the other side, when stocks get oversold and get to support, they tend to bounce. So Microsoft, this level here, let's just call it 360, first became important back in July of 23 because it was resistance. The resistance breaks, remorseful sellers go to buy their shares back, it becomes support. People sell here, goes back to here. People who sold here go to buy their shares back. Same thing here, same thing here. So this, I mean, I know hindsight is 2020, but if you were trading the strategy that I was just kind of talking about, waiting for the reversal to start, okay, we get to support, the RSI line turns up and goes back within the range, and that would have been the perfect time to buy. Same thing over here. We get to support, you wait for the RSI line to turn up, and then you jump in. Same thing over here. You wait for the RSI line to turn. So the key is waiting for the trend to form, or well, at least apparently start. It's impossible to catch the bottom. One of my favorite Wall Street sayings is the only people that can catch the bottom and the tops are liars. So, you know, it's like golf. It's imperfect. You're never going to be perfect. What you need to do is focus on the job description. The job description should be your trading plan, and your boss is the market. So think about a business, right? If you own a business and you hire someone to work for you, you're going to give them a job description. If they follow it, you're going to reward them. You're going to promote them or give them a bonus or whatever. If they don't follow the job description, they're going to fire you. Now, that's the same way you should look at the market. People should always have some kind of reason for doing something. I can't tell you how many people I talk to that say, "Oh, I bought this stock," and I say, "Why?" And they're like, "I don't know, just kind of just kind of intuition." What's your exit strategy? I don't know. I didn't really think about that. Right? It's not what you buy, it's how you exit your positions that's important, because buying is an easy thing to do. It's exciting, but selling is hard because you're either going to be taking a loss or a profit, and people don't like taking losses, and people tend to take their profits too soon. So we really want to focus on the exit strategies. Now, there are a lot of strategies that work. We can use the reversal to the mean, a breakout. The common denominator is they don't take big losses. The successful traders of all these different styles don't take big losses. And I'll use our golf analogy again because it is so appropriate. Getting a good score isn't really about hitting a bunch of great shots. It's about not having blow-ups. It's about having your bad shots be acceptable. In other words, if I go up to the tee and I hit my driver and I hook the ball, it's 50 yards in the woods, and now I've blown up. If I go up to the tee and let's just say I hit my 6-iron and I hook the ball, well, it's not going to be in the middle of the fairway. It's probably going to be in the rough, but at least I have another a chance to get to the green. It's a bad shot, but it's acceptable. Now, another analogy to golf is putting, right? Pretty much any club pro at any country club, teaching pro, they can drive the ball 280, 290, 300 yards right down the middle of the fairway. So what's the difference between those guys and the guys that are on the PGA Tour, the Scotty Schefflers, the Rory McIlroys of the world? It's the putting. They're putters. They can read the green. You hear these amazing statistics, which I'm sure Ryan will appreciate. Like, Rory McIlroy, like, that's the first 3-putt he's had in 2 months, or something like that.
Meanwhile, I have a 3-putt. I have a 3-putt every other hole. This guy's waiting months to do it. It's unbelievable. And then your analogy checks out because Scotty Scheffler, his putter, the milk's gone bad. Putter's gone cold, and Scotty can't win, even though if he places second there. That's a good analogy, Mark. I think you're on with that one.
Yeah, so just like golf is ultimately, at the end of the day, about putting, that's the analogy to the exit strategy, right? If you get into a position, you should know where you're going to get out. Like, let's just say that I was a breakout trader, and this looks like a logical trade to me, not that I'm recommending it, but if I was to buy this, let me think about my exit strategy. Okay, I think if it gets up to there, that's where I'm going to sell it. So that's my that's my target for a profit. That's my best case scenario. My bailout, because I made a mistake, and let me get out of this thing before it becomes a blow up, would be just under this short-term support level. So right around here. Now, if it starts going my way and I get some money on the table, well, then I think about letting it trend, right? Now, if it gets to my target, great. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you get blown out right at the beginning. But what happens a lot of the times is things start to go trend your way. You have some profits, you have some money on the table. And then let's just say it goes sideways for 5 days. It crosses the trend line. Well, what's the first thing that something that's going up needs to do before it goes down? And the answer is it needs to stop going up. So if you think about a way a chart is constructed, if a stock, like say this stock is at 530 and goes sideways for 4 or 5 days, it's going to cross that. And at that point, I say, all right, well, this didn't get to my price target, but it's a winning trade. I followed my rules, and now I'm going to move on to something else. So the important reason to have rules or some kind of a model is not because you're going to reinvent the wheel or build a better mousetrap. It's because it takes the guesswork out of it. And if people lose money because they make bad emotional decisions, and people make bad emotional decisions because they guess, and people guess because they don't have a plan or a strategy. So right here for this particular trade, that's what I would be thinking. Now, of course, we can get more into like how much capital do you commit, and I think a good habit to get into for a trader is when you get into a trade, don't think about how much money you can make. Think about how much money you can lose.
Yeah.
This famous trader, Larry Williams, from the 80s and the 90s, I remember him saying, go into every trade assuming it's going to be a loser, because then if it goes against you, it's going to be much easier to get out of. At SAC, Steve Cohen's firm, or his old firm, now that's called Point72 Asset Management, he says some of his traders only make money on half their trades, and yet these guys make millions of dollars. So how is it possible that they can only be right on half their trades and be so successful? Let's compare a paper trade to a real trade. Your paper trading system says buy 1,000 shares at 10. If it gets to 15, sell it. Okay, great. You buy it at 10, it goes to 11, it goes to 12, it goes to 14, it goes to 15, and you say, oh man, this is easy. I'm up 50%. I'm going to be the next great hedge fund manager. Well, now let's pretend you have real money in it. It's not paper trading. And now the stock's at say 12. Now all of a sudden it's like, man, I know my target was 15, but I'm up $2,000 here. That's 20%. I'm just going to go ahead and sell it here. And then it turns out you were right and it gets to your target price. All right. On the downside, on paper trading, buy 1,000 shares at 10. If it gets to 9, just blow it out. Real life, I don't want to take $1,000 loss. I'm going to hold on to this and hope it comes back. So what's the difference between the guys who are right half the time that are really successful versus people who aren't successful? Well, they have the emotional fortitude to get out while it's a small loss and let their profit run, or let their winners run until their targets. And it's not easy to do because people experience fear, and the fear of losing money is what makes people hold on to their losers for too long and sell their winners too soon.
And Marcus, sorry to interrupt here, but it's crazy to me that the fear of losing money is actually responsible for people holding on to losers for too long. That to me, that doesn't really jive, but I understand it. I know what you mean.
Yeah, there's something known as sentiment or sentimentality bias or sentiment bias, where people just get like in love with the stock because they've made money on it. Like as someone who does a lot of teaching now, when people say to me, "Oh, I love this stock," to me that's a red flag, because what happens, and I've seen this more times than I can even remember, there are people that they get into the market, they've never made a trade before, they've never been in the market, and they buy their shares at 10, and then the shares go to 20, and they go to 30 and 50, and then they go to 100. And the people are like, wow, this is incredible. I can't believe I've never done this before. I've made so much money on this stock. I love this stock. But if it gets to 90, I'm going to sell it. And guess what? It drops to 90. And then that person says to themselves, well, I'm still up ninefold. I'm going to hold on to it. If it gets to 80, I'll sell it. And then guess what happens when it gets to 80? Well, I'll sell it if it gets to 70. And you know where this goes. What started out as a huge profit becomes a loss. Yep. Because the person got sentimental. They fell in love with this stock. To me, a good analogy is everyone knows a couple that like probably shouldn't be together. So these people go out on their first couple of dates and they fall in love and everything is great. But then all of a sudden, a couple months later, there are red flags. Maybe this person isn't as great as I thought they were after all, right? But they stay together because it's the sentimentality bias. They want to try to relive those first couple dates where things were so great. And it's very similar to the stock market. People get a stock, they fall in love with it, and it influences the way they think. These stocks don't care about you. So right. You shouldn't care about them. These are just tools that traders use to make money. Like a carpenter uses a hammer. I would hope the carpenter doesn't fall in love with that hammer. But traders use stocks. These are just our tools. And yeah, like I said before, if emotions didn't exist, trading wouldn't exist.
How about this for a quote? Irrational emotions tied to something that can't love you back.
Yeah, that's perfect.
It is perfect. I know it took a sec there. Bigabees is deep on multiple levels like that. Mark, here's something else that I really want to kind of confirm everything that you just talked about. My side project here is I'm writing this trading bot to automatically trade for me so that I can completely remove emotion from 100% of my trades. My first day on Live Money was Tuesday, right? Tuesday. And I was on the show here, and the bot took a trade on NVIDIA and immediately went to the green. And I asked the chat, I said, chat, should I just manually flatten this so I can have the trophy that the first trade that my bot ever made was a profitable one? So I ended up doing that. And then because I was so nervous about this bot being connected to my actual account and not a paper ledger anymore, I just watched it like a hawk all day. And I kept flattening winners. I was like, oh, it looks like this is going to stop here. I'm going to take the gains. I'm going to make sure I don't have a bad first day. It was all right. It was all right. But at the end of the day, I had the AI analyze all my trades. I do this daily to see if there's anything I can learn from my trading activity. And it said something that was just, it astonished me. It astonished me. It gave me a breakdown here. This is quote what it said. Manual flattens. Almost all would have done better if you had held. Names went higher. Several of them would have hit their predefined target. The lesson that I took away from that is you're an idiot. Stop intervening with the bot. The computers are exceptionally good at doing math. The entire strategy that I have is telling you what to do. And my dumb emotional ape brain is out here flattening stuff on the way up and not letting my winners run. It literally confirms everything that you were just saying about psychology and all of that.
Yeah, I think this chart I have here is just such a perfect example of psychology. Of how it affects the market. So this is the Dow Jones going back to when it started. This blue line here is exactly 100. Now, from a fundamental or earnings point of view, there's no way that you could ever justify or explain how the $100 level is so important, other than people think like, hey, if the Dow Jones gets to 100, I'm going to sell everything. And for you all, it's easy to think about long-term buy investment now that the market's close to an all. But look at this. I mean, if you were a buy and hold investor, the Dow Jones hit 100 in 1906. It was at 100 in 1942. But guess what happens when we get up to 1,000? It's the same thing as what happened at 100. This blue line is exactly 1,000. So there's no way, again, you can ever explain this based on earnings or interest rates. It's the psychology of people saying, if the Dow gets to 1,000, I'm just going to sell everything. And again, for the long-term buy and hold investors who are now like, oh, that's the best strategy. If you bought the Dow back in 1966, you weren't making money until 1982, right? So the market does go through these long phases where it goes sideways or it goes down. I mean, we're in the midst of this big, huge bull market, but it's not going to last forever. Eventually people are going to get really euphoric as the prices keep moving higher. People's sentiment now is pretty neutral, maybe a little bit to the bearish side. But if people are not, if when the sentiment numbers get to extremes, and that's when you get the signal, right? The very low last April or the very bottom, the negative sentiment numbers were off the charts. So why is that a good time to buy? Well, it's because everyone who wants to sell does so, and the market runs out of sellers. Now, eventually, we're going to get to a place where people get euphoric. I don't know, maybe it has to do with the thing in Iran ending or oil prices coming down or whatever. And when people are euphoric and everyone's talking about the market, and you go out to a restaurant and your waiter starts giving you stock tips, that's the time to sell because the market runs out of buyers. So remember, we could talk about earnings and EBITDAs all we want, but it's ultimately what moves the market in the short term is the crowd, the auction market.
That's right. All right. You got anything else, Mark?
I'll take a couple questions.
Okay.
I don't have a meeting
Awesome.
until 9:30.
Okay, awesome, because I don't have my co-host in the regular time slot anymore, so this is very, very convenient. Folks, you guys often ask me to break down charts here. Let me know what you think. We did have one request here for Palantir already, so I guess we start with that.
Interesting, yeah, because I was looking at that before. All right, so what do we have here? Well, we have an overbought stock that is, well, let me rephrase that. We have a stock that was overbought and it stalled out at resistance. Again, resistance at former resistance levels. Now, the fact that we had this little bit of a down day over here and yesterday really kind of nothing happened, that's bullish action because this is taking the overboughtness out of it. It's like, if think about being overbought as like a rubber band is stretched out. Well, when it gets unstretched, it's not overbought. Now, when you get really overbought like this and you get to a resistance level, you tend to reverse and come back. Now here we got overbought, but these last two consolidation days are taking the overboughtness out of it. And then this morning we're trading back up. So the key here is to look for this breakout above this 160 level or so. If remember this, there's a lot of people who want to sell at this level. If we get above that, we can infer that those sellers have left the market and they're gone. They've either finished or canceled their orders.
Yeah.
So I'd be watching this for that potential move. And if not, then you play the reversal. Oh, hey.
Okay.
There's my new dog, Brutus.
Hi, Brutus. Team, if you have time for it, or if you got a jet, I understand.
What? Yeah, I got time for one more. What's the symbol?
Team, TEAM, Atlassian.
Hey, Brutus. All right. Now here we can see, is there news? Oh, wow.
Yeah, there is.
Really.
Yeah. They're really good earnings for Team.
But again, look at where it's trading. Look at where it's stalled out. Right at the former support level. Right. So even with the great earnings and the great news, the market principles still are there. And it's not a coincidence. While at least for now, this is where we stalled out. So that's what I'd be watching this level for. When these things get to these important price levels, they tend not to hang out at them for too long. They either break through or they reverse. So the odds are greater that happens than that it goes sideways. So that's what I would be looking for on this stock. But that's pretty interesting. I don't think I've ever even heard of it.
Yeah, you probably have. They're the parent company for Jira, which is a commonly used ticketing software for web development and app development. Maybe not. All right, Mark. Really good stuff, man. Have yourself a great weekend. One thing before you get out of here. Apparently, there was a communication breakdown here, unlike the Led Zeppelin song. Mark, I did not hear from you about your website. Please send me an email. Knarp, he doesn't have your email, so did you email him? Let me know. But in any case, there's someone trying to get a hold of you about, I think, the trading school.
Yeah. It's it's coming along. I'm working on my school here. It's just a lot of work.
I get it.
But hopefully I'll have it up and running. And I'm thinking about the pricing model too, because I don't want it to be just like everything else.
Yeah, I feel
I'd like to just have a community, maybe like 100 people, and do live streams every day and so forth. But anyway, it's a work in process, and I'll get there soon. But if you check out my Substack, you can stay in touch.
I say it every week. Check out Mark's Substack. Be sure to subscribe. Lots of good stuff coming there. Mark, we appreciate the time and the extra time. Have a good one. But change your party affiliation, because I ain't voting for you that way. All right, Mark. Have yourself.
Wow, you don't want to buy stuff for me for the rest of my life?
No.
What's wrong
with you?
I
want to keep my own money. Thank you very much. Mark, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
All right, everyone. All right. See you next time.
That is Mark Putrino. Really good stuff and some laughs from him. I do like some of the openers. Now, I know several of you had some charts you wanted to take a look at. Now Mark's gone, and you're like, no, he's ignoring me. No, I'm not. I got another guest to help you break down those charts. Let's welcome on Anne-Marie. Anne-Marie, good morning. Happy Friday. How are you?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to capital preservation. Watching out for the not giving back anything after this week.
Okay, that sounds good. Capital preservation should always be your number one goal. So Anne-Marie, starting with the fundamentals here. I love it. You want to share your screen, and would you maybe take some tickers?
Yeah, let's take some tickers.
This is great. So we just did team. The other one was net. All right. So NET. I think we should probably start with that.
All right. And they reported, yeah?
Yes.
So let's see how they're doing in the pre-market. So this is a little bit, price action today over the board is a little bit similar to all kinds of other things. We've been running nicely. Things move up on a big giant spike. In addition to unemployment, and they will sometimes either get muted if they're moving up because unemployment pulls the market down, or the reverse. So we've got ourselves a little bit of a topping formation here at about $338. We'll call it 340, and let's see if we breach that level today. Put an alert at 340 for yourself. In general, if we take a look at this chart, we're going to see that it's moved a lot, right? Well up into the upper edges of the formation. Take a look at what happens to this chart every time it does that. It tends to give back a fair bit of it and come into baseline support. So where might baseline support be? My thought is that it's around 284. So you're going to have to ask yourself the question, how long do you want to hold this for? If you're an intraday trader, here is my thought, and I'll use a 15-minute. That's a little bit smaller than I normally use, but we'll take a look at it anyway. And you can see it gapped up at 4 p.m., held that area until just a second ago, and it just lost 326. So the question is, where might it be going? My favorite thing to do, easy peasy, is look at the 50% range of that high marker, and that gives us 313. So this could be a pretty nice fade. Now, here's what tends to happen. So the morning opens up, everybody gets a chance to look at this, and they're going to do one of two things. The market will sweep lower. Let's say everybody's super excited to buy, and so they buy, but they set their stops tight because they don't want to lose a bunch of money. And so it sweeps down, and then it recovers the level. So what we want to watch for to see if this has bullish motion is if it sweeps into these lower edges of this earnings candle response and then begins to hold. You can see it coming into that 326. It's the close of this big candlestick formation here. They're trying to buy the bottom of it right now.
Yep.
If we look, let me see, I can't see time and sales here because I've got a bigger pattern. But if we take a look at this, just realize we have two things that are telling us we have sideways drift. The top of the sideways drift looks like about the high of this 15-minute candlestick response and then the high of the 30-minute candle. You could trade from 326 to 338 in this sideways pressure event, but it's going to be really important to watch the open. So maybe as we come into the open, we can keep an eye on this and see if it sweeps lower, pulls back that 326 and allows the traders to buy back up into the range, or it sweeps, loses the low of that follow through candlestick down at 325, and then that gives us the retrace into 317 and 313. So those are some really solid levels. See how they're buying up the edge of this candlestick right here? That's natural. Now here's what a lot of us do. We go in and we go, all right, I see what she's saying there. I don't want to lose a lot. I'm going to come in, put a really tight stop, and I'm going to get involved. And what happens is you get swept because the nature of the algorithm is to sweep that low and then move up high in an uptrending formation. And we notice that this overall chart is in a broader upsweep because it's been moving pretty nicely to the upside. The buyers, just like Mark said, the buyers are coming into these higher lows against the complacent sellers that are moving around. And every time they come in and they buy the dip just a bit higher. Overall, I would expect this chart to continue higher in the near term. If we get a massive market jolt because of X, Y, or Z, then we look for the lower edges to buy. For the traders that tend to follow me that have longer time frames, we would look at saying, hey, why don't I sell a 230 put spread, but I give it an October expiration? And that might give me some updraft. But those are the intraday lines for us to watch.
Okay, that was comprehensive breakdown there on NET. Hope that's what you were looking for there. Really, really good stuff. Anne-Marie, I'm going to do another request here real quick.
Sure.
I'm going to do Docs, which is
Oh my
Doximity.
gosh.
Did you see this?
Holy smokes. What I wanted to know was what in the world was a short float?
Glad you asked. I can tell you what that is. Short float, percent of float shorted as of 7/24. So we're actually going to be doing a new one here pretty soon. 16.44%, 7.39 days to cover.
Isn't that a lot?
Yeah, the days to cover. So the days to cover meets our metric of high. That threshold is 5. Generally speaking, percent of float shorted, my high threshold is 20. This is a stone's throw from 20. It is absolutely elevated, higher than normal, plus a high days to cover. I think there's definitely short squeeze potential on this. The craziest thing about this, not only did we gap as much as we gapped, it's up 98% on the back of this earnings beat.
Yeah.
98%. Not only did we gap the amount we gapped and filled and kept going from a previous earnings fallout. We've closed this gap. It's done. Goodbye. We also gapped above the 200-day. So, I mean, this thing just unbelievable move here. Here's some of the headlines because they reported earnings here. Here's some of the headlines. The report is strong because it combines accelerating top-line growth with best-in-class profitability, AI-driven product momentum, and aggressive capital returns, even though margins are compressed slightly. They had margin compression, and they're trading up 100% almost. Just incredible. Revenue came in at $156.6 million. That's up 7% year over year and over the prior year. Net income was $24.3 million with a 15.5% margin. And adjusted EBITDA was $74.8 million. That had a 47.7% margin. Just monster numbers in here.
This move tells me this was a short covering event.
Okay.
The move from 40 to almost 70. And so here's how we know this, right? When you see gigantic wicks, it's either bottom or top. People are getting out of the market first and asking questions later. So what happened was we had the earnings. It was monstrous. Price action moved up. Look at that earnings response candle. Well, are you laughing at the
I'm laughing at I had the daily chart on. And when I turned this to the 5-minute, I was like,
oh yeah, it's insane. But these wicks tell us about the psychology of what's happening, and it's absolute fear of losing a ton and having your broker call at 9:30 going, you got to liquidate, right? Or them force liquidating you in the night. And I would bet much of this is forced liquidation. Notice it is a chart that trades 24/7. Notice all the candlesticks here all through the night. It is a chart that trades 24/7, and 5 a.m. Europe opens up, and then it's off to the races, and everybody goes, holy cow, I got to get out of here. This is not indicative of buying. As a matter of fact, when we call these things gravestone dojis,
something like that. I wish 13 were here because he knows the name of every gravestone, abandoned baby, and everything else in between.
Man, I just have never learned that. I've never learned those names. So here's what we're seeing. Again, a big space, the do or die. Is this a real move? The question would be, did they have forward guidance? Did they guide forward?
Yes, they raised it. Their forward outlook is arguably the best part of the report. For Q2 fiscal 27 guidance 170 to 171, and the full year 2027 guide is 671 to 681.
Okay, so obviously this is fantastic news. having forward guidance that is increased is going to give us better moves. If you're saying to yourself, man, I want to trade this today, the line it does not need to break is this 34. If it loses 34, it's got that VWAP test at 31, and then the initial response to the news before everything else, all the way down at 27. So my thought would be, if you're into it, great. You can buy it here. As the trader that I am, I would say, hey, hold the phone. Let's watch it come in, see if it holds that range and then breaks north. But this is a great one where you could buy a long call spread way into the future, and then or sell a short put spread, or if you want to acquire the stock, sell a short put. This is to have them move up to chase all that short interest out of the market and then have it come back and settle with upside flow. This one's got potential legs. Definitely would keep it on the ones to watch.
Okay. I got one quick question here, and then we're going to get an official answer on the gravestone doji here. We are in luck. First of all, there's 20.73 million shares held short. That's the raw number as of 7/24. We've traded 11 million here today. So based on the average volume, which is about 4 million, it would take about 7 days to cover. We've done 3x the average volume already before the pre-market even opens. So here's my question, Anne-Marie. Does the fact that we've already seen one of these spikes and complete retraces mean that we're less likely to see it again? Or is there still the powder keg here potential? Like, I basically what I'm asking you is how many...
We're looking for a failed, if it fades, we're looking for the inability for it to get above 35.
Okay.
If it fails on a spike down, it's still going to be a buy. They're still going to say, hey, yeah, let's buy it. If it bounces off of that fade and then moves into an area that then collapses and gets back under 35, it could dribble along. Okay. But in the long run, it's definitely got some legs, because we washed out all of those sellers. I mean, they hit the road and we're out of there.
Yeah.
Notice, get this, the average daily range for this chart, the average true range of it moving either up or down, is $1. That's the ATR. So it's more than 20x. That's average move. And that is very likely to lead to compression. Notice there's also a gap fill from the last earnings event around that 23 area. You know, I have to say, I like this on a fade only because their forward guidance is excellent and we've washed out so much of the short interest.
Okay, great. Anne-Marie, let's get a official answer. I don't know if you folks remember, but there used to be a gentleman on CNBC named Carter Braxton Worth. Really sharp guy, really well-dressed guy. They called him the Chart Master. Unfortunately, it was a poor moniker because the Chart Master is actually 13. Let's bring him on. 13, welcome. He hates it.
These names.
13. Our resident chart master here. Anne-Marie had a question. Is this technically a gravestone doji that was being formed here on DOCS, DOCS?
On the 30-minute chart.
On the 30-minute. When you get these different candles, it's also going to be where they're located too. That is going to determine what they are. This one here, that is a very long wick. But I think I would be more inclined to call this a shooting star, because when you have a doji, usually the price, the opening and closing price are almost exactly the same. It's a very, very flat real body. When you have a larger real body, then it starts to take on a different meaning. But they're generally going to give you the same kind of price action. A shooting star at the top of an uptrend like this one, just like a Greystone Doji at the top of an uptrend, just like this one, are going to both give you bullish reversals. So I don't know if that's what the explanation you're
I
looking
mean,
for.
we get the same. We come to the same
conclusion. Yeah.
conclusion.
It's a reverse. It's a reversal candlestick generally. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Anne-Marie.
Oh, see you later.
No. Anne-Marie, we are going to still try and recruit 13 to the options segment later on.
Awesome.
Right?
I'll be there.
And you're good for that. Okay. Awesome. Look, I really appreciate it. 13, appreciate you jumping on. I know we probably have another mover or two that we'd like to get knocked out of the way prior to the open here. So if you want to go ahead and do that. Anne-Marie, we'll see you in a little bit.
Sounds awesome.
All right. And again, Anne-Marie, thanks so much for being so accommodative to our community here. They love you, and we all appreciate all of this technical analysis. So
my pleasure.
Thanks
See
very
you
much.
soon.
We'll see you in a little bit, Anne-Marie. All right, 13. Let's do some movers here. I know we're going to be pressed for time, so I'm just not going to talk. Which one is it that you want to do first? Is it Master Beef, lol, at the name, or is it another one?
We've traded this one before.
I know.
I didn't take a close look at these. I just remember that we've looked at these. The only two movers that are over 100% or actually over 200% are both they're Hong Kong and China names. So they could be wild and then just give everything right back. Just be careful with these is all I would say. Master Beef.
I'll be right back 1 sec before the open.
Okay. Master Beef,
bro. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Master Beef. What was this one again? This is the full service restaurant group. Okay, so apparently they have a franchise agreement. That's July 16th. I don't know what the news is going on here today. Float 4.5 million. There's it can still get pushed around, but I don't have any news as to why this is moving. So let's look at what the technical analysis is giving us. We are. Let me go to my broker. I like this. EMA's there better. Okay, so we're trading above VWAP right now. Looks like we're having a hard time getting up further into the 15 handle. Losing, we haven't really been able to hold the 15 handle as we try to get back into it ever since we started dropping down from that impulse high that took us up to 1975. And we're just pretty much going sideways here. But the fact that we're above VWAP is a good sign. I think that if we get back over 15 and hold that, that's going to be our indicator that we are pushing up higher. Now, there is another level of resistance up at 1650. You can see that earlier in this morning when we did go up to the 1975 and we started to trade back down, we were getting support from that 1650 area until we finally lost it at about 635 this morning. So that has brought us down to the VWAP here after we lost that 1650 area. So 1550 and 1650 appear to be the next two big resistance levels to the upside. And as long as we hold that VWAP as we approach the open, that's possibly what we could be facing here. Now, if we do blast through 1650, well, we could keep an eye on that 1975, but I think you'll get some resistance a little bit earlier around 1880, 1875. But that's those are the upside levels I see, the next few upside levels I see if we do hold this VWAP and we climb higher out of the gate.
Okay, really good stuff. MB. The next one I think is NAMI. This is the other one that's the 100% runner. This is Ginseng Technology Holdings. I feel like we've traded this one before, 13, although I cannot remember the specifics. This name rings a bell. So does the ticker. Coordinates or which operates through its subsidiaries of principally engaged its provision of digital textbook subscriptions. Okay, that was a long way of getting to that, but we got there. No news. Stock's up 125%. Short interest on this negligible. There's nothing in it. 27.3 million shares in the float and a market cap here of 230 million. So it doesn't meet that criteria either, but it is moving here. 13, I can't help it. I see a trend line here.
Yeah. I see that too. So
and I see we kind of wicked into it. So to me, I still think that's kind of valid here.
Yeah, I was just looking because we have traded this one before. I was just looking to see what day that was. It must have been sometime last month, maybe even back in June, because there were some other news headlines regarding this, including a NASDAQ recompliance that usually gets some names going. Now, when I'm looking at a daily chart here on the, in Benzinga Pro, we are coming up to a resistance area around 10. I don't know if you see that on the daily chart.
I do.
That looks to me like the next, let me actually move my broker as well. That looks to me like it's the next big resistance area to get through. And we'll find out if we can do it now.
and we are open. Perfect timing, 13. All right. We are off to the races here. Let's see how it goes today. Good luck, everybody. Happy Friday.
And Crimp Biscuit is correct. They did do a reverse split. That was, I think, last month. No, June is when they did it. It was a 1 for 25, and that was actually an ADR ratio change. All right, Master Beef, still holding VWAP out of the gate. Man, there's no volume in these right at the moment. Not really doing a whole lot. Much better volume earlier in the pre-market. Let's see if we get some expansion here.
Yeah, no doubt. And the SPY came back in a little bit too. ES basically came back into the VWAP. SPY is beneath the VWAP at the moment.
SpaceX getting a lift out of the gate here, climbing over VWAP. One of the earnings names last night that I was holding for earnings, Carmen, that went up to 61.19. It's now giving a lot of that back in the at the open here. I still like this one for a trade if this comes back in. It's going to be busy company. What else do we have going on here?
Here's your SpaceX. This is an interesting push through the VWAP here. We'll see how short-lived that is. And then also on DOX, which we just talked about here with Anne-Marie, that short squeeze in the pre-market. What a move that was. It actually looks like it's struggling to get above this recent candle here. $40 seems to be the make or break spot for DOX.
DOX and Team were two names that looked, and I think they were pretty undervalued. Their discounted free cash flow kind of gave them that. They're gonna be making lots more cash, and their intrinsic value I think was lower than or that's higher than what they were trading at. So both, and if you look at their price to sales, I mean they're pretty low relative to their peers. So DOX and Teams, they had some short interest that could definitely push this. I think that's what you were seeing with DOX, particularly in the pre-market here, that big pop and drop. But these two were trading at some pretty low price to sales ratios relative to their peers. I think they were undervalued.
Okay, Palantir, I see Geo mentioning that here. G-Man, excuse me, mentioning that here. Palantir straight up out of the gate here. Nice move there. Westcap mentioning Bitcoin with some eye emojis. That spiked to 66K, came back in a little bit. That is still in a very clear uptrend. The SPY or the ES is bouncing off of its VWAP here. SPY recaptured VWAP as well. Thank you, Kathy. Nami restricted on Schwab. That's going to be one of those Chinese names that's going to be restricted there.
Master Beef is halted to the downside. It's just above the 65 EMA. Nami was trying to pop up to the 950 area. That got rejected. It is struggling to hold VWAP right now. So both of these mover names not looking good out of the gate here, but we'll see what ends up happening throughout this morning. We've seen a lot of these names just sell right out of the gate, and then they turn around and just rip to new highs. So I think I'll just wait and see what happens with these.
Okay, I think that's not a bad idea.
SpaceX still climbing, 118 now.
Ionic, SpaceX actually at the pre-market highs too. Actually looks like it's above it. SpaceX, that's a nice candle. Tesla's kind of reversing its candle, by the way. Ondas 9 calls getting bought, FYI.
SpaceX halted, heading to 120. Yeah, I think it's heading to 120. That's a resistance level for me.
Soundhound is popping. We talked about this one reporting earnings yesterday or the day before, the night before. Yep. We had kind of a bummer of a day yesterday, but nice little spike here out of the gate. No position for me.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about that one in the happy hour the night before, because it was having some really great moves the night before and into the pre-market. So we were talking about how that could maybe pull despite the high short interest, but it's still got that high short interest, so it could come back. TE on the move after earnings. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Team is
no,
or TE.
T1 Energy.
Okay. Airbnb, by the way, this is at the top of the impulse move from the earnings. Here's TE as 13 was asking for.
This is a mention from Fake Beat, T on the move after earning. And what's this? This doesn't have earnings. This has earnings in later this month. This is moving on something else. This is moving on the
American
Section 232 investigation. I think there's a headline here from today that I think is why it's moving here.
American Solar is supported by the Polysilicon Proclamation. That's the headline here from today. The earnings thing was them announcing their earnings date.
Yeah, T1 believes setting a minimum price on polysilicon and derivative products supports a U.S. solar industry that can provide scalable, reliable, and low-cost energy for American electricity grids. T1 believes this decision will support American jobs, manufacturing, and energy abundance. So they are in support of this policy. I think this policy apparently works well for them. This company also has some high short interest, but the days to cover doesn't really meet our metric, 1.46 days to cover.
Westcap saying, is it just me or your guys' screen really blurry? It does not look blurry to me. I would check your setting in YouTube on what the resolution is and see if that maybe helps it a little bit. If it's on auto, perhaps set it to HD. It shouldn't be, though. Producer, let me know if you notice anything out there.
Docs halted. Let's take a look and see if it is. It is.
To the downside, yeah.
Yes, it is. And
I must have missed it here. Oh, excuse me. I did miss it here. So here are your halt times. MB halted 9:31:37 and Docs halted 9:33:18. So if we expect those to be 5 minutes, your resumption times are 9:36:37 and 9:38:18.
What do I think about BlackBerry? I own some of it. It's one that I'm just holding some for a little ride because they've. I think they're going to be pretty important in the connectivity of different vehicles, throughout the nation and probably eventually globally. Their QNX software is not only used for vehicles; it's also going to be used for robotics. Managing robotic fleets and tracking diagnostics. I think their software is some of the most widely used by governments. Not to mention Palantir, but this is a Internet of Things and endpoint to endpoint security company now. They don't make cell phones anymore. They're more into cybersecurity, security services, and connectivity.
Cells, this is CELZ. This popped here. Congrats to anyone that was on this. I know we didn't really cover this as a mover here, but this did go above yesterday's intraday high. That value up there at 175. To watch that level here, but this is moving, and it's moving on volume from the open. There wasn't a whole lot of volume in the pre-market. News yesterday.
NAMI is coming down to some of the support areas from the pre-market. This is where we had a lot of sideways consolidation from the price action. It's also that the 65 EMA trying to get some support right here. So we'll see if this is going to turn around or if we're going to continue lower to the next area of support down around 585 to 590. And now Master Beef is unhalted. It turned back up, recaptured VWAP, and now it's halted to the upside. And we just got an unhalt with Docs.
And that is lower.
SpaceX on the doorstep of 120. We'll see if resistance kicks in here or if we're flying through it.
Big B is mentioning Datadog moving really nicely. This, I said, is this going to be a bounce back here? The report actually looked pretty good. Datadog moving nice. You think 250 is possible?
Let's take a look and see. So SpaceX through 120 at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like those calls getting bought here for Datadog. Those 250 0 DTE calls, those are being traded here. 150 ask.
Well, Ryan, you know what just happened? All my indicators disappeared again on my chart.
Oh no!
When I looked at Datadog.
Oh no!
Let me load an old layout.
Oh no! We'll get it fixed. 13. We'll get it fixed. You just couldn't do it overnight.
I know. Okay, let's see here.
Sancho John, thanks for joining us here. You're definitely new here. First of all, we do not give any recommendations. Neither of us are licensed. No one in the chat is licensed. We do not recommend stocks here. We tell you what we're looking at and what we're trading. We do not tell you what you should buy or sell, ever.
Okay. Datadog. So got this on here. And what was the question regarding this?
Okay. So this reported earnings yesterday. It traded it down. Yesterday, it didn't really do a whole lot, but today it looks like it might be trying to bounce back. So we have this huge gap above. We're basically right at the resistance area. I'm looking at the 250 calls here. They look fairly attractively priced. I was asking Big B's if he thought this could make a move towards 250 here. Basically, what I'm asking is, can we fill any of this gap candle that we have?
I think that 250 is probably your big resistance. You just draw a horizontal line right at 250 on the daily chart, and all the price action just jumps out at you. You also have the 50-day SMA right there at 249.31. So that's going to be another. It's in line with the same level of resistance. It's less than $1. So yeah, I think that 250 area, that's going to be your big resistance level to get over.
Yeah.
You also have that moving average in a way that was previously a support. You know, he had one day where on July 28th, where the price dipped underneath the 50-day SMA, and then that just turned it right around and sent it up to new highs. So now that we're underneath this, that's a big level to get over. I think you initially see resistance.
Okay. Docs is coming in, by the way. Ryan Milligan, good morning. It's great to see you, Ryan. Ryan's asking, does anyone think SK Hynix is cheap? Is anyone looking at it? It seems very cheap. SK Hynix looks like it's testing yesterday's intraday lows here. That's what the daily chart looks like. Still near the low post-IPO.
It might look cheap on this U.S. Exchange chart, but if you look at I think it's the Taiwanese exchange. No, I'm sorry, the South Korean exchange. What is that called? It starts with a K. I can't remember what it is.
OSPI?
Yes. That is likely going to make you think twice, because you're going to see a huge run up into where we're at. So I don't think it's cheap. I think it's going to probably end up coming in, and I would be looking at the price action on the Kospi for what SK Hynix has done prior to its IPO.
And do we have, I can't remember if there was because Tom's posted that chart. I don't have access to those markets. Tom posted that chart recently. I wonder if I could find it here for the group, just so we can get an idea.
Yeah, I'll try and search that too. SKHY for the ticker. Maybe that might pull it up quick.
No, because he gave the ticker for the Asian market, and it's just like a bunch of numbers. Oh
no, but I thought he would have posted it, or at least headlined that post with the ticker. But anyway, SpaceX still trying to hammer that 120 area. Got a little bit of a pull once we reached it. Looks like NAMI getting a bit of a lift here off the 65 EMA after getting support there. Still not above the VWAP. And Master Beef, it unhalted, gapped up and halted again. Now this is approaching some of the resistance area. That resistance area at 1650 looks to be next.
Big B's 000660.
There you go.
There we go.
Look it up.
I was going to say, now I'll use the search function and see if I can find it. Big B's doing the Lord's work over here. 000660.
Oh yeah, there's also Sezzle. Let's see, is that down some more? Yep. This one, because it seemed like they did have good earnings, but I think when you look at the sales guidance, you're kind of like, wait, what? Because they raised their sales guidance from a range of 585 million to 607 million. Well, I should say that the decimal, 607.877 million. But now they've risen their guidance literally $28,000 higher. That's the guidance raise. Did you see that?
So it's like barely a raise. That's basically in line.
Yeah, it's And I think that people that were in this would be right to just say, give them the middle finger and be like, okay, fine, if you're going to play that. The guidance it's not a guidance raise. It's just that they're eliminating the range and just saying, yeah, it's the top end. That's all it is. It's basically $28,000 higher than the top end that they gave last quarter.
Yeah.
So,
yes. So Sezzle down 31% here. How's TTD doing? Let's check how TTD is doing. Down 22%. This is actually trying to come back so far. SPY trying to push to the highs, by the way. Tesla at the highs, SpaceX at the highs, Palantir at the highs, Netflix at the highs, Palo Alto turning around, Velo at the highs.
Looks like let's double check this. I mean, it maybe just be the case that the space names are just having a really good morning. Let me double check here and see what the watch list looks like. As we look here, we have mostly green on the screen. The biggest space losers this morning are going to be York Space Systems, YSS, and Astrotech, ASTC. Everything else is looking pretty good, even if they're under. If they're down today, they're not down more than 1%.
Okay.
Now we're getting a big pull in crypto, it looks like.
The Bitcoin price is just kind of holding steady here at 65.5, but there might be other names that are playing. Just saw a whole bunch of Tesla call sweeps at the wire. That's while this is at the highs here. Let's just run through some of the list here. Here's SoundHound. So this spiked to 760. It came right back in. See what else we have here. Here's Path. UiPath is another AI name. This is actually going pretty good here. Did this have news? I might have missed this morning if this had news. No, they announced their earnings conference call, but no actual news itself. SPY, by the way, rolled over a little bit here. S&P futures coming back in, but still above the VWAP. Ion Path Long bought it at 10. That actually seems like a good buy, Alan. I think Path eventually is going to turn it around. That's just a hunch, though. There's Celsius trying to bounce after earnings. Tried yesterday in the pre-market. Couldn't really do much of anything.
When you look at the IGV chart, it kind of looks like software is getting ready to push higher. There's a bit of a trend here, too.
It's higher here today. You think this Yeah, okay. So this trend, are you basically starting this back from October of last year?
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. So
I would,
there we go.
Yeah, I think we're kind of looking at maybe a 105 breakout over this trend line.
Okay. Let's see that. And I think Microsoft had actually a really nice day yesterday.
It's been having a good time since.
Yeah, look at that. Look at this. Microsoft. Yeah, it sure has. Microsoft, nice power move, held it all day, traded into the highs at the end of the day, went higher here today. Microsoft, pretty good. Kathy saying that the fiber optic stocks are doing well. AAOI, now, didn't AAOI have
Yes,
earnings?
They reported. Honestly, when it came to Microsoft, though, 500, I would have liked to see this get a resistance and come back in the back test 465. This is getting extended, and I don't like that because the fall is going to be probably even it's going to be more now that it's higher, but still could fall back to 465. But that's the support area I'd like to see the price come back into before we go towards 600.
And then for AAOI, here you go, Kath. Here's my question. Can it break this pre-market high? I guess I could even probably draw a trend line on here, although I almost think that that's close to that's trend. That's trend line. We'll see if that can roll through there. You also mentioned some of the other ones. Now, Light has earnings in 2 weeks, doesn't it? Oh, excuse me, 4 days. I beg your pardon. This is actually next Tuesday after the market closes. See if Light actually goes higher after its earnings, too.
Now, when it comes to AAOI, I think there was a little bit of confusion here in the newsprint because it originally said that it had a 28-cent adjusted EPS miss. That was GAAP. The adjusted EPS was actually a 6-cent beat. But this, I think, was trading lower, not because of that misprint, but because the I think it was the Q3 guidance did not meet estimates.
Okay. Here's NET. I think I'm going to get NET here. Oh, I just got right as I clicked. Thank you. Actually, we got a flurry of upgrades on that too, I think.
Yeah, this one I think was printing new all-time highs in the after hours, right?
Yeah, it was. So Needham maintains buy, raises the price target. So it looks like just price target adjustments. Maintains, and then price target raises. So
I don't think I'd be really good with this candle, today's candle closing like that. So watch and see what happens with today's price action. If we do come back in and fill the gap to the downside, if we push higher, or if we just end up with this this doji candle. Because if we do, then I would think that that's going to represent some indecisiveness. We could come back in tomorrow. So depending on how we trade here today, I'm probably going to determine, I say tomorrow as if the market's open Monday. We come back here on Monday.
I do that all the time still. SpaceX still near the highs. SPY did get a buy signal on the 0 DTE. We'll see if that pushes higher here.
Okay, 121 SpaceX after trying to deal with all those sellers at 120. Still looks like it's running out of steam going up here. I think I agree with some of that exhaustion there, G-Man. It seems like it might be setting in, but we'll see what we get because the volume is continuing to decline. And we haven't had a red candle close yet. So let's see what we end up getting here over the next 5 to 15 minutes.
Cut. ZYBT, Wiss is mentioning that. It looks like a Chinese name here. Let's take a look at that real quick. Here's ZYBT. Yep. Zengi Biotechnology. I feel like maybe we've traded this one before. This is actually above the pre-market highs, though.
That's a sideways price action on so many names. We're just up and then down, and then we're kind of finding a mid-range with all that price action we're getting this morning. We're not really going anywhere in a lot of stuff that we've been trading over the past several days,
No.
even the big names.
One that is going here, my bot took this. This is the first trade of the day for the bot. This is NVIDIA. Actually, it looks like this is trying to take out the intraday highs here, 223. Did see more NVIDIA call sweeps here, 222.50s for today, it looks like.
Palantir through 165. Next resistance I've got is 170. That is a big resistance level that it got through with the 160. We'll see if we can get multiple closes. That's the next thing I'd be watching for, is if we can continue to close above 160. If we get that, then I think this maybe I'm not going to get my $90 target anymore if we start to close above 160.
NVIDIA through 223 there. Looks like it just popped through it and then pulled right back in it. I'm still in this trade. I'll let you know when the bot closes it. See if we can get another push higher here on NVIDIA. Palantir and Tesla. Wow. Tesla, is that still rolling? Let's take a look. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then SpaceX, we talked about that. That does look like it's slowing down. I agree with you there. Okay, not a bad open there. EKS, you were talking about X-ray. I'll be honest. I did not go through this report. X-ray falling here. What did you think about this, EKS? Did you go through this? Do you have any highlights or lowlights, I guess, for this? What did you think about this report on X-ray? I'm still holding it. I hold it small. I guess what I'd be thinking about doing here is adding if the report was good. I have more of a long-term view on this one.
Looking at Tesla and that gap that we created last month, I would think that could be the resistance area that we climb up to. So that would be about 342. That lines up pretty well with where the 20-day SMA is. I think that if we do climb over, what is this? If we can get over 330, 342 is where I would be looking for the price to go up and find resistance.
Okay. EKS, I added Solve for their dental over X-ray. Okay, so you just diversified a little, which I don't think that's a bad idea at all, frankly.
MB Blue Skies. Is that breaking out?
Master
Oh, yeah.
Beef.
All right. Well, so here we are.
And
We
it's
are
halted.
halted right at the highs of the pre-market.
Okay, so X-Ray missed on revenue, but it got tariff refunds, which inflated its EPS number. So you added Solve instead. Okay.
Yeah, and that's not a reoccurring form of revenue.
Yep.
So that's not going to be something that shows up next quarter.
That might be why you're getting sold here today, 13. Well, not you, but the stock.
Well, yeah,
we don't sell 13. We like 13 here.
I'm not for sale. So the price. Hold on. Let me go back to X-Ray here. I would be wondering what the price without the or what the earnings without those tariffs would look like, and if it's not meeting expectations, then yeah, we're going to get this sell-off. Now, this is interesting too because we're going right down to where the 200 and the 50-day SMAs are, which we're on the verge of a golden cross until earnings said not yet. So we'll see what ends up happening here at this level, because if we fall beneath both those moving averages, I think that delays our golden cross here.
Okay. Really quickly on NBIS, G-Man saying, guys, what's going on with NBIS? There is no news here for NBIS. This had a big run. We've basically retraced 50% of that. We've got earnings in 5 days. This looks to me, G-Man, like trading action, and it looks like there is some significant resistance for NBIS in the 228 area.
Yeah, that 50-day SMA.
Yeah. So that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I don't know if I would lean on, let's see, what is this? 164, 165 as support, or if I would just say, nah, it's going right to the 200-day SMA, because you do have some support at that 164, 165 area, especially if you look at that consolidation from April, that little area there. I think that might give you some support as well. So that's why I'm looking at that 164, 165 area. Its potential level of support with the 200-day right beneath it. So that's where I'm looking at this maybe going to next. Maybe another 20 handles down from here.
Okay. YJ, a China name. This is halted. The halt was 955.06, by the way, on YJ.
YJ.
Actually, this looks like this popped into a previous resistance area too on YJ.
I have no news on this since May. The short interest is negligible. The float isn't, I mean, it's 13 million, but it's not, a micro float. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. It's just probably one of those that's getting grabbed onto and taken for a ride.
Nikhil, Micron down. It's only down 1.7% here. And actually, look at this. It looks like it's basically coming back in to test this trend line. If we zoom out here, look at what's been going on the last several days here for Micron. It's really, look at this. It's just testing this trend line here. And so to me, we're just kind of back testing it right now. We are trading beneath it. Micron a little bit weak here. I didn't see any news for that though.
Yeah, I've got a trend line for Micron that I'm watching because I want to see when this downtrend ends. And the past few days, including today, we've been trying to hit this trend line and get over it. We've printed over it. We haven't closed over it yet. So I'm watching for when we start to close over this trend line here. And I've only drawn it starting with the high in June. I drew it through the high in July, and the past few days we've just been hitting that trend line, but not able to close over it. So it's something I'm watching here. Still think that there could be some more downside until we start closing over this trend line.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. 13. I think that's spot on. Okay, let's just keep rolling through some other stuff here.
EKS, I think I saw something yesterday with regard to rolling back some of those restrictions on some of the green energy segments like wind.
Yeah, wasn't there a court ruling that the wind plans have to be allowed or something like that?
U.S. court orders lifting of Trump's freeze on wind projects.
Yeah.
So obviously solar is not wind. but I think it could be getting a relationship trade there because it's part of that green energy field. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say Zach's given his MU target there 6 to 650.
Let me see here, because I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think I was calling for somewhere. I was calling for a certain price for a sand disk around 700 to 800, I believe. You're talking 600 to 650. I could maybe even see lower. To be honest, I don't think that's a bad level. I just think that maybe it could still see lower, like lower than 600. For the next area of demand zone support, I think that's more like 650 to 7, actually almost 800. But I agree that I think we're still going to be going much lower than the prints we've seen already.
Palantir running still. Palantir indeed. So I know we took a look at that after the impulse move. That has continued to roll higher here. The fears of Palantir were greatly exaggerated. Palantir, look at this. This what a move out of the open. This was the trade out of the open.
When do we have our unhalt with Master Beef? Because that should be unhalted pretty soon, and it hasn't moved since we looked at it reach 1975.
Yeah, 9:52:44 was your most recent halt time. We're past the 5 minute. The 10 minute would be 10:02:44.
Okay.
YJ immediately got halted again.
SpaceX having some trouble getting back into. Actually, we have not closed above 21, despite printing above it a couple of times. So that currently looks like some of the resistance there in SpaceX. Palantir's today's stock.
So far, that's no arguments for me on that one. So the SPY, we talked about that coming back in here. It is beneath the VWAP, but it's not breaking down yet. So we might still be okay for a move here. We'll see.
PLTU having a nice day. That had it was up 16% a moment ago. Coming up into some, this could still maybe climb a little bit higher up to the top end of the consolidation from March. But it's only based on PLTR, so it depends on what that one does.
Yeah, it depends on the underlying.
Oh, that reminds me. How's RGTZ today?
That's down. Yeah, after the earnings, right? Last night we looked at. Yep.
Rigetti's actually doing well, which is kind of wild because the valuation doesn't make sense to me. But when I looked at what it's got going on, I'm like, well, maybe there's something here in the future. But right now, the valuation doesn't make sense.
Hey, MB is unhalted. Good mention there, Jacob. It's great to see you again. This came all the way back in. Actually, it looks like it might be running the risk of going red. MB.
If it holds VWAP, we might revisit that 1975, maybe higher. But if we hold VWAP.
MB, great short, says Westcap. Love it, Westcap. You the gunslinger that I referenced earlier.
Semiconductors kind of are losers, but what's not losing is some of the software.
Yeah, actually, you brought up a really good chart there on IGV. Let's see how Microsoft is doing today. That's also been strong. So that's still holding higher. Let's see if it recaptures VWAP. Here's a quick peek at IGV.
We got MB halted again, right? Looks like maybe it's just slightly beneath VWAP, but went and halted down there. And now we're going to see if we hold VWAP or not. So we'll see maybe in 10, 15 minutes if that unhalts and provides another trade.
Okay. Now, so this is another software name here. This actually looks pretty good too. This looks like this might try and go past its intraday high here on Now, NOW. G-Man mentioning SMH is not doing good. That's your semiconductor weakness. Ondas reversed. That's now weak. Apple might be curling up. Bitcoin weakened and fell from that 65.5 level.
All right, SpaceX trying to push higher here.
Which one is trying to push higher, sorry?
SpaceX.
SpaceX, SPCX.
Goro, the junior miner that is earnings next week.
Goro, huh? Do we ever look at this? I'm surprised. Goro.
Nobody wants to look at a four-armed, muscle-bound demon from another world. But
That's
Luke
a
Kang will
Mortal Kombat reference right there.
No, Luke Kang will have no problem taking him out. Okay, so this $2.40 stock, Canada.
MU blowing up. We were down 1.6% last time. We're down 2.5% now. I'd still watch for a recapture of this trend line.
Goro, look at the daily chart. This thing is kind of riding the 20-day SMA right now. So as long as it stays above that, this may have some more upside. But as soon as we begin to close underneath the 20-day SMA, I think this may lose $2.
The market is attempting to put in a bounce here. We will see if it's successful. The S&P did lose its VWAP, but its the SPY, God bless it. The S&P futures, ES, lost its VWAP, although it's battling for that right now. We'll see. Volunteer still high. Oil might be curling a little bit here, and VIX back to 15. Michael, V. Holman, thank you. NBIS, Michael Burry announced a new short on NBIS shares and reopened the short on Oracle via puts.
Alan, we're also finding out that some people that were early investors in SpaceX are being advised by their financial managers to hold. So that's another thing that could be helping SpaceX from selling off or keeping it from selling off.
G-Man saying SpaceX wants to go up. You mean it wants to take off? And who would have thought?
Yeah, now we're through
122. It is going. Yep, it is going. I'll tell you what, that absolutely feels just like kind of a reversal of the trade that everybody, including myself, had flagged here. Lock up earnings, thought it was going to be bad. SpaceX kind of doing the opposite.
And we'll see if today results in a close above the 20-day SMA. Did we get a close back on August 4th above that? Let's see here. Well, maybe 2 cents above it. But let's see if we can do better. See if we can do better today, because that would be a more meaningful close above that moving average. And we are coming now, even if we get that, there could be some resistance up in the 130s, maybe between 132 to 135. I have a trend line that I drew from the underside of the price action. And when we lost that level, it became a resistance trend line. But also the 135 IPO price is right up there too. So we're coming up to some resistance in the 130s. SpaceX, it's a trap.
It's a trap.
I mean, asking you shall receive. 13, I'm actually going to step away, run to the washroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay, what should I take a look at here? Looks like we are getting a big move down in some of these crypto names. Let me look and see what Bitcoin's doing. That is not Bitcoin. What the heck? There we are. Oh, yeah. So on a 5-minute chart, we have gone from over 65,000, about 65,300. We are down to underneath 64,800. So we have swung $500 to the downside in Bitcoin. Looking for some support to come around. If not here, there should be some support a little bit further down into the $64,000 handle, maybe another $100 away from here, about 64,600. Let's see if we get some support there. MB is open, and it is higher than when it was when it halted last. It's still above the VWAP. Let's see what we end up getting here with Beefmaster. Thoughts on Vate? ELOL is a gift. And do I think AirJ has room to run? We look at all that here. So let's start with ELOL. Oh, this is okay. So this is basically an Elon trade. It's a ETF for shares of Tesla and SpaceX. Basically, if you believe in Elon, this is the trade for you.
Which ticker is this?
This is ELOL.
ELOL. Elon Long.
Yep. Elon.
Leverage shares for Tesla and SpaceX.
Yep.
That's a new one. Haven't looked at that one.
I have not looked at that one either. Thanks for bringing that up. That's kind of interesting.
Looks like really low volume.
Now, Innovate, this is VATE, Innovate. This is up today on earnings. And this is approaching its 50-day SMA, which I have at 1331. Big volume candle, probably one of the biggest ones they've had, aside from, I think, January 2025 was the largest candle they had that month. But this getting out of the sideways consolidation and looking pretty good here. I think if we are going to want to see this hold up, $10 looks like the support area we want to see hold up here. And it looks like Beefmaster, or I'm sorry, I say Beefmaster, Master Beef. That is now losing VWAP and is down at 65 EMA.
By the way, I got stopped out of NVIDIA here. Unfortunately, this was tough. This was a tough trade here. It was really flirting with breaking this 223. It ends up coughing it up here. So stopped out here 0 for 1 on the bot trading here today. And also the index gate here, we are choppy. So it is risk off for right now.
Yeah, up 30 Master Chief there. It's funny because I keep saying Beefmaster because that's is it a gin or a vodka? It's a spirit
Beef
brand.
Eaters.
Beef Eaters. That's right. Yeah, Beefmaster. I must be thinking of a grill.
I was going to say, as someone that sold grills, that would make sense.
Yeah. Golden Cross on Hood.
Thank you, Stock.
I don't recall seeing that on Hood. Oh, wait, that's right. This is where we have all those moving averages converging at once. But the problem is that we're beneath those moving averages. So, we may get a crossing, but it might not be very long lived. As a matter of fact, I don't know that we've necessarily crossed. It looks like it's happening today. And we'll probably end up getting it because the 50 is still calculating the price action when it was it was above that level, but we're trading beneath that at the moment. This is going to be a tough resistance area, that 98, that 25 area. But I'm just kind of wondering what's going to be the catalyst that pulls us back through all that resistance. Because we already had earnings, right? I think that was it last month? Yeah, the end of last month.
Hood's really got to break away from this point. Up or down,
yes.
I guess I don't really care, but it needs to get away from this point. There's a lot going on here.
I think it needs to get out of this area to the upside. We need to get through that area that I was just talking about with the resistance, because I think it goes lower if we can.
Yeah.
Like lower down to maybe $75 lower. Looks like Bitcoin is getting some support from the 64,750 area.
And look at SpaceX, dude. It
Still
is
climbing.
Still taking off. I wonder
they're
if people
squeezing shorts.
shorted this. Yeah, I was going to say. I wonder if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Look around here at the Twitter streets.
BSEM. What's this? Biostem Tech. This looks like it's trying to recapture the 200-day SMA. Let's see here. There was... Okay. Looks like it was listed here today on the NASDAQ. News from yesterday, BioStem Technologies announced it received NASDAQ approval for the company's common stock for listing on the NASDAQ capital market to begin trading on NASDAQ on August 7th under the ticker symbol BSEM.
So then this previous history here is a different ticker.
It could be if it was over OTC. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just finding out about this one today.
Jay says, not too many Elon haters around today. LOL. No, they're here. They're just quiet.
Yeah, as soon as SpaceX starts coming in, then we'll probably hear more from.
Yep. By the way, I know several of you folks were talking about Starwood yesterday. I did add a little bit yesterday. Nice to see that coming back here. To me, this was just a report on some of their investment properties. Still like this. Still long, so was able to add down there in the 1560s.
Can't tell you where to add for on this, but I can tell you where I see some support levels. If we cannot hold this 50-day SMA, there's you got that 20-day SMA that I think I like, because there's a range that that I think I was looking at that the price would be getting support. It did get a little bit of in that range, and it's between 780 to 830. But it looks like you had better support down around 625. So I'm just telling you where the support levels are. I'm not really able to say where the best entry is. It's going to depend on a number of things, including your time horizon. But for support, it looks like that 20-day SMA might be able to provide it if we go back down there again.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's battling with its 50. So I would say, it was riding that 20 down. We recaptured it. We kind of battled with the 20. Now we're above it. So 770, if you're going to use the 20 again, 770 would be that support. Right now it's trying to carve out and hold its 50, though.
Well,
Zach says bull trap. Bull is in the stock, or bull trap for the market, or what? Help me out.
what is the SPY looking like right now?
SPY, I'm actually getting a buy signal here on the 0 DTE. SPY is a return back to VWAP. S&P futures, same deal.
I would have liked to see SPY come in some more, just for one more day. But seems like we're still trying to hold above this 170 area. We've opened above it every single one. Yeah, we've opened above it every single day since we got up here on Tuesday. And we just kind of seem to lose it toward the end of the day. Looks like Master Beef, I got it right.
Hey,
That's open now. Looks like it's trying to come back up towards VWAP. See what we end up getting here at VWAP, if it's going to go higher or if we're going to get a rejection and go lower.
I'll tell you what, man. I look at this chart and I think to myself, glad I didn't play that one. Glad I didn't play that one.
Yeah, imagine being a buyer at 1975. Palantir breaking out. Are we going higher now? We're on the doorstep of 170. So Master Beef still having trouble with that VWAP. SpaceX printed higher than 125. It went up to 125.55. Trying to hold above that $25 level.
So where's the top here in SpaceX for the day?
For the day? Oh, geez.
Yeah, I know. I'm asking the hard questions, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm thinking we're running into resistance right now. Maybe let's call it 128.
Basically the high from Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say if we break through the high of Tuesday, then the areas I mentioned earlier, the 132 to 135 is where I would kind of.
Yep, and Trevor agrees with that. Trevor's saying 135. That's the IPO price. We talked about that too in the news article from the A block today. So I think you're right. I think your next spots here, 128, 135. Your next resistance. Now this is still up 8.75% today. So
Beefmaster pushing through VWAP.
Master Beef.
Yes, that one. It's trying to. It's hitting it right now.
It happens to me all the time. So I'm certainly not one to criticize here. I mean, I have issues with this all of the time.
Master Beef, Beefmaster, Sir Beef. Yeah, SpaceX. Well, 135 is the IPO price, but the opening price is 150. That's what we started trading it at. Look at CABR, CABR.
What is CABR?
I do know. Carrying Brands. This is hitting a new, well, not a 52-week high, but we are approaching the highs from November. Or not the highs, but the prices from November.
Its IP portfolio now includes 5 issued U.S. patents covering 2 of its main product platforms, hair enzyme booster and Photosil.
Hair loss treatments, eczema, psoriasis treatments, vitiligo solutions. So this is a dermatological company.
Yeah.
Or biotech, or I don't know exactly what they do, but it's in the dermatological field.
Yeah, what kind of cap of 15 mil on it? Flow to 7.7 million. No revenue. So I don't know what's making it trade up by 9% here today.
Probably the news from yesterday, since it was during the when it was closed.
During the after hours, yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is actually a nice little kind of daily, right? Like it looks like it's kind of curling and maybe drifting higher here. Don't know much about it though. YJ, that's the China runner. We talked about this one a little bit earlier. That's open out of a halt.
Looks like Bitcoin bouncing still.
Oh, man. Yes, Bitcoin is still bouncing.
SoundHound has had a nice run. Is that still moving?
Let's look at SoundHound. SOUN.
Oh, wow. Nice recovery.
Yeah, and we want to get above this, right? Like we want to get above this and move higher here on Sound.
Well, what's nice is that we were still trading above the 50-day SMA. We held that. Still a little bit high on the RSI, but we're not overbought yet. If we can, continue to maybe hold above the 50-day SMA, I think that sets up for a higher move later. But I don't know what we're going to get today. If we're going to see those highs from yesterday or go higher, I'm not going to make any prediction about that. But I just like that we're still above that 50-day SMA after being underneath it for a while, and that has previously been an indicator of support.
Mm-hmm.
170 is the end game for Palantir today. So
it's right there. Yeah.
Okay.
It is right there at that end game spot. Nice move though for Palantir. Boy, 9%.
And if we continue to climb higher, here's my next upside levels. I have 175, 181, and 183. It starts to really tighten up when we get into the 180s. So even if we go past the 170s, I think the 180s are going to be the toughest spot for Palantir's upward price action.
Here's Apple. Daniel brought up Apple here. Apple question mark. Daniel, I'm sorry I didn't get to this till a couple minutes later. This was a good mention here. Apple just set some new intraday highs. This is actually what we were hoping for from the NVIDIA trade earlier that we did not get. Apple giving it to us here. I would say your next spot here on Apple, probably 316.
That recapture of the 50-day SMA and the hold that we're holding above it, I think today may end up representing the third close above that moving average if we get it. So that could bode well for some continued upside.
Yeah. Daniel, this has been one of the best stock purchases I've ever made. And I also made some for my mom, who now believes in stocks because of this. So please understand that I'm biased when it comes to this stock. But this actually looks pretty good. We have the big earnings move down. There's a potential gap fill here. This 316 area that we're talking about, I have the top of this candle at 316.29. So there's a potential gap fill up there till 330 on that. So I think that 316 level today that it might test, or that it could test. I think that's going to be key. It looks like we tried to do this yesterday. We couldn't. Now it looks like we're coming back on for it. That's what I see in Apple. I like this. I like the company. I like the stock to close that gap.
Canada discussing trade concessions with the U.S. in return for some tariff relief, sources say. This is from the Globe and Mail.
Is that why the SPY is just straight up here?
I don't know, but that's an interesting headline. It's a very, I mean, we had, we had the jobs numbers today.
Yeah.
That was, unemployment was lower than expectations. So I think that might have something to do with it to a good degree, but also the trade concessions. I think that could certainly be a facet of this move as well.
CMG, what a reaction! Is it to this news, or was there more news about the diarrhea lettuce?
Was CMG part of that? I thought that was Yum Brands.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering. Remember CMG reported that they saw lower sales despite that being about Yum. So CMG looks like it just curled a little bit here off 33. Judge, take care of yourself, man. Have a great weekend.
Take care, Judge. I hate those distractions sometimes too, Market Sniper. Distractions are tough.
Oh, I see. I won't even make the comment that I was going to make. Just in case the wife's within earshot. Ondas bouncing back a little bit. SpaceX back to the highs. Tesla bouncing back. Velo returning to its highs as well.
Yep. And after a brief stop around 125 or pushing higher, SpaceX. Some nice morning here. Kind of makes me a little bit concerned about what we're going to get later.
Yeah, isn't that always the case? A lot of call sweeps. Tesla, NVIDIA, Palantir, NKE. Let me just rub my eyes, double check, pinch myself, make sure I'm not hallucinating. Someone put mushrooms in my coffee this morning. How is Nike having a whole lot of call buying? Those are the 70 calls too. Boy, I got an issue going on with my chart right now.
They declared a 41% quarterly dividend yesterday.
Oh. Nike?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's all right. Here's your Nike chart. Stock's $42.
That's the only news I see.
Yeah, these are the 70 calls for January of 2028. Okay.
What's going on? Okay, so SpaceX just kind of beelining for 130 now.
Look at space. So I wish the bot was in that trade instead of the slow, boring 3M trade that it's in.
Looks like we initiated stage separation, and we are now at stage 2 here, going after we've reached 125.
Let's go, dude.
What else is happening here? So Bitcoin back over 65,000. DOX still trading lower. NAMI is getting some support from this 200 EMA, trying to turn around. Master Beef is halted to the downside after going through the 65 EMA.
G-Man says, Ryan, please stop SpaceX going up. Okay, G-Man, let me do the best job that I can here. Here we go. You ready? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?
Now
I hope that works for you.
Now back in your bottle, Ryan.
Nobody puts Ryan in the bottle. All right. Velo back to the highs. Ondas still trading up. SPY to the highs. Boy, I'll tell you what, the candle on the ES right now is going from 6 to midnight. That is, whew.
The masters of beef are trying to recapture the 65 EMA.
You did that one on purpose.
Yeah.
You did that one on purpose.
I had to.
I was born at night, but not last night. SPY here right at the pre-market high, too. This will be an interesting spot if SPY can hold higher than this.
Are they spitting out some news? I haven't looked at their feed today.
SPY?
Oh, Kevin O'Leary's talking about it, so that must be it. He sat out. So Kevin O'Leary said he sat out the IPO, and he's just plotting his entry.
So he's like the rest of us? Question mark?
Well, you say the rest of us as if nobody else has been picking this up. I haven't been picking it up yet, but he's kind of in our camp. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that Plan 9 from outer space? No, man, that was I Dream of Jeannie.
Hey, careful there, Nathan. I see what you did. Careful. SpaceX 128.16 now the high. It's looking good.
All right. Well, we are waiting on Anne Marie. But if she doesn't show up, we've already got 13 here.
Yeah,
so GG's.
Figs is up, says Carlos.
That's Figma. Is that what we're talking about here? Or Figs? No, he said Figs. Didn't he? I'm
36%.
sorry. Figma's up too.
This is off of earnings from yesterday. They raised their sales guidance and they had earnings beats. They have they doubled their share repurchase authorization.
Joe saying, remember when lockup expiration was supposed to be the catalyst for a major sell-off? That's what we've been talking about for 2 days. And we talked about this yesterday. I read you quotes from a PE guy that told me it was going to be NBD. He was right. No surprise. He's right often, by the way. And we talked with Jay. One of the things Jay was saying is that it was so obvious. It was being so talked about. We're really not even all that surprised that it came in the opposite direction. Okay, Anne-Marie, oh my, on my way. Anne-Marie, you're totally fine. You are totally fine. Let's bring Anne-Marie on. She's still laughing about it. That's what we love so much. Anne-Marie's laughing about it.
Hey, guys.
Hello. What's going on? All right. Excuse me. Anne-Marie and 13.
No,
guys
I'm good with guys.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I don't want to offend anybody, Anne-Marie.
No, it's me.
Yeah, I know. You're extremely hard to offend. All right. So I would say this. I would say we could kind of do a mix of things. I would say, Anne-Marie, if there are any option trades that you got your eye on, let's hear it. 13, keep your eye on anything that's moving around. Or if you guys have like a combined idea on something. 13, you had asked me about you. We took a look at that the other day. But if you have anything else that you want, let us know.
Nothing comes to mind right now. It was just something I was looking at for a World Cup trade. We may get a little bit more in their Q3 earnings, but it's one that also paid a dividend. I had I talked a lot about this previously. I still own about 25% of my original position, but as it's been trading higher, or when it does trade higher, I typically trim. So that was what happened most recently. I trimmed U up at 66.
Oh, that was a really good trim too, because that thing came right back in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's now at the bottom of the prior candlestick formation. So it is definitely in some sort of basing event.
Mm-hmm.
what we have a tendency to see is this sweep of action just below it and then the recovery of it in a sideways patch like this. I mean, if you're looking long term or longer term, easily short put spreads would work here. But maybe a short call spread would too, if you just used the very top of the range and you didn't go past, I don't know, October. From that perspective, I don't know how much premium we would be able to get off of that. But this is, notice how many times it's bounced off of this area. These people are very interested in buying it through this range. And I don't know, did they, their earnings event, did they present forward guidance that was bullish? Did they revise how
Yeah, their guidance was bullish. They saw Q3 sales of 284 to 287 million versus 274 estimate. So they raised.
Okay, so they raised. Yeah, to me, something like this, if you're saying, hey, I want to look at that. Now, it expanded quite a bit. The move on that one day was $13 or so from the low to the high. Its average range is about 350. And so that's a lot of motion, which usually gives the chart a chance to pull back. But if we were saying, hey, listen, let's go long, that's a nice clean support area as it goes. So if you're saying to yourself, let's see if anybody's piled in there. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, if you're looking at something like this and you go, hey, let me try October. Ooh, it doesn't give you October, it gives you November. And so we've got a lot of people sitting at 60 already at the top there. So you might say, listen, I'm okay paying a little bit more for a butterfly because it's got that kind of updraft. So 55, 65, 75, it's just $1.40. So that's 8x. If this moves into the region of old resistance, it's going to give you a very nice return, a really nice return. So there's that.
Like
one of the things I'm waiting for with Clear Secure is the announcement of expansion into more venues, because it's not just an airport play. They also have a contract with CMS for Medicare login for verification. So they have that angle. They're going to be broadening into more sport events. What are those convention centers, things like that, where there's large gatherings of people. And
13, thesis wise, having that done before the Olympics in LA, I think is a huge thing, because there's going to be tons of lines. This is going to be an easy way to skip the line for an additional expense. We saw how much money people spent at World Cup. To me, that's a huge part of this theme.
And it also gets, the overlords a chance to track everyone moving in and out of things. But hold on.
That's the ultimate goal.
I took my hat out and put it on. The hat that I keep. So,
I was going to say, Anne-Marie's going to have a trade up here coming up on flock cameras pretty soon. So just stay tuned for that. Just kidding. Real quick, Anne-Marie, this is a really good suggestion here. A lot of us are waiting for SpaceX. A lot of us think we're going to be able to get this lower. Trevor here is suggesting, Ryan, maybe you should discuss possible entry points for SpaceX by selling puts with Anne-Marie. What do you think about that, Anne-Marie?
I love it. And full disclosure, I am short puts in SpaceX, but let me show you where I am short puts with SpaceX. It's not going to be fancy for, most everyone, but I sold the 80s for $20 just before earnings. The January 2028 80s I sold for $20, which would make my break even 60 if I got it. So if you're saying to yourself,
Oh my God.
lady, I don't even know where I'll be next week, much less a year and a half from now. Bring me something else. Let's see what they're doing in January, right? We've got a put wall in January at 100. We've got this is definitely a strangle. Take a look at this one. It's the 150, 100, and boy, is that expensive. It's $30 for just January. So they're still expecting some very big motion in the price action. Your thought has always got to be, and I'm going to pull it back to Mark this morning. Love listening to his segment because he's just so practical. The thought is, if you take this, what's going to make you get out? Well, the first question that's going to allow you to answer that is, why are you getting in? And that's going to be, hey, I think it's got a great 5-year run, or I'm just trying to trade the short cycle. You've got to frame out how long you want to hold a trade. Then you can establish the risk parameters. Then you can say, okay, this is the most that I want to lose, and then go from there. And so if you're thinking to yourself, no, I think this is going to run, listen, let's take a look and use that same sort of space. What actually is happening? Everybody moved to one side of the boat. It's going to be awful.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came in, held nice and tight, and then look what happened. It went to the bottom of that earnings candle and closed at the top of it. And today, everybody that was short is saying, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. And so my suspicion is that this is the first action short squeeze. If you're looking at trading a short squeeze, it's up already 10%. Let's see what the ATR is for this kind of intraday motion. I mean, here's a look from a couple of days prior at about 131. That's where people said either I'm getting out or I'm going to short this. It's sitting right up at that edge. You can see our formations giving it that same structural motion of that 200% rotation. And that's literally what it's done. Here's the opening candle formation, and now it's moving up to 2x. That's the top of that range.
Mm-hmm.
Now, your thought, if you're going to continue to move, something's got to push that forward. So what's it going to be? Is it going to be, oh, SpaceX isn't going to be using as much money. They aren't going to be collecting as much debt on their sheets. They're not. All of that's the same. Everything's the same. The only thing that changed was, oh, they came out in earnings, could not break lower and stay lower. They moved right down into the lower edge of our earnings extensions chart here, double bottomed, came back up into the freight, opened into that earnings candle, bottomed out here at that 9:30 candle, and it's off to the races. Why? Because the sellers are like, if it gets above 115, I'm out of here. And the buyers are like, oh my gosh, it's just recovered that earnings candlestick event. I'm going long, but to what end? And I think it's just into resistance because overall, it's a short squeeze.
Okay.
That's my thought.
So let's complicate this. 13, I appreciate this. 13 has mapped out the tranche dates for the expiry, this scaled expiry. Here it is. Here's a graphic on the screen here. Now, this might be a little difficult for me to see, but I'm going to try and give you these dates.
It looks good.
Friday, 21st of August, the 10th of September, 25th of September, 12th of October, 26th of October, and the 13th of November. So I wonder if we could maybe structure a trade around any of these dates if you have the conviction to do so.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that these are all based off of what they said in their filing about when these tranches unlock based on their IPO day. So the days that did fall over a weekend, I just moved them over to Monday.
Okay.
And I sent you that image just for reference if you want to go back to it at some point, Emery.
Okay. Thank you very much. So my thought would be, let's try and follow the big money in the space. So if we wanted to pick the first date, what is that? November, did you say?
First date was going to be August. So the first date here is going to be August 21st.
Okay, so we've got an expiry there. We don't want to do anything there. Only because the vol is just going to be too expanded, and it's literally, you're going to be rolling dice, right, for a craps event. So if you're looking at September, well, first of all, let's just look at August and see where they positioned. Let's just look for the walls, the call wall and the put wall. So put wall looks like, 90, 100. Yeah, 100 is the put wall. It's going for 82 cents. If you are thinking to yourself, this thing is going to fade, there's your trade right there. There's the wall. You can trade into it. You can say, hey, I want to use 110 to 100 put spread. It's $1,000 of upside. That's about 8x because it's only going to cost you $1.60, right? If you are, see, here's the thing. Markets move when unknown unknowns collide with known unknowns, and it opens up a brand new area of, oh, who knew? Just like everybody said, hey, our known unknowns are, we don't know how they're going to report, but our known knowns were they're continuing to accumulate debt. Continuing to accumulate debt. So the known knowns make everybody go, well, we know what's coming. Obviously, they're going to get punished. Tech is seeing rotation. This is a short. They pile onto the edge of the boat. That rotates all the way over, and then traders move in the opposite direction because they have to unwind the trade. This is going to happen in the exact same way. Could you say to yourself, well, why don't I just do a condor then, or a long iron condor, thinking that, let's see where the walls are here. Whoa, they got them all the way up here at 160. I don't know. And that's because I'm a little bit on the bearish side there. So 135, 145, 155 on a butterfly. It's $1, and it's going to give you $1,000 of upside. So you're going to have a 9-to-1 risk to reward if it moves into that ledge. You could do the same thing with the put spread and say, okay, I'm going to trade on both sides of this. I'm going to go 100. I'm going to take the 110, 100, 90, and expose myself with 2 butterflies on both sides, $8 of exposure, $10 of upside total. So you're looking at 8-to-1 if it moves in either direction right on the 21st. If, though, you're thinking about this more reasonably in terms of, all right, let it shake out, which is what we are seeing, this shakeout formation, and we move it into September.
There's some additional context I can add
Please.
after that.
Okay,
Go ahead.
So yeah, we do have that tranche unlocking toward the end of August, but there's also going to be another event, there's Starship Flight 14 launch that's also supposed to happen that following week. There's no confirmed date, but they are on a monthly cadence now, and they're trying to launch at the end of every month. At the same time, you also have NVIDIA earnings, and they just announced a major partnership between SpaceX and NVIDIA for their StarMind data center satellites. I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to see that launch occur the same day that we have NVIDIA earnings.
And that might be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The question is going to be, if it does move, how long do you hold it? And where do you say, hey, I'm wrong? And those are such catalysts that send short sellers out the door and long buyers out the window if they lose that space, that we easily could see expansion that contracts, which is what I think we're going to see right now. So to me, it's a little bit of a it's a little bit of dice rolling, because we've still got the cash burn and we can't get over that cash burn event. We know we have to burn the cash to advance the technology. We know forward pricing is going to be great if they accomplish their goals. The question is, what do we do in that squishy middle? And how do you position for upside? And for me, I'm always going to look for, all right, let's just watch them throw the kitchen sink at this and have it fall out of bed completely. And then you go in, which is why I sold the 80 puts just before the earnings event.
Yeah, that was
Because
smart.
I was looking for max vol, I was looking for max churn, and then I was watching for the other side of the boat to come. But I have a longer strategy sitting in my head about what I want to do with SpaceX. If I compress that into smaller pieces, that picture gets super muddy for me, super muddy. And so, I hate to punt, fellas, but if I'm looking at this, to me, double butterflies on both sides are going to get us everything that we need, because the put will give us a protective move and the calls will give us a great advance if it moves forward, and vice versa. So the question will be, how do we pull those off as we spike into these edges? Because I do see spikes and fades.
Yeah.
Let's think about how the natural IPO works.
Well, you're gonna get a lot of both of those in different directions, because they do have
Bingo.
different
Exactly.
catalysts coming up. We just talked about that Starship launch. That they're trying to attempt to catch the Starship. At least that's the plan. So depending on how that goes, if it's a catastrophe or not, that could certainly change the price action of the stock. Here's another thing: Anysphere, they're acquiring that. That's going through regulatory approval right now, and they're expected to close this deal this quarter, Q3. And that's going to be a 60 billion all stock transaction. So they are going to be diluting their shares further this quarter. So we have now until the end of September for another potential share dilution event that could pull the stock down.
Yeah. And so my thought would be, hey, listen, put on your visionary hat, just like Elon has, and go, I am not going to use this as a slot machine event, but I'm going to use it as a long-term, big picture building event. When I see those savage dips, I'm going to nibble in. And so even if you're a smaller trader and you go in and say, hey, listen, it just went to 90, I'm just going to buy, 5 shares. You're building structure around something you think is going to move over time. Listen, remember I bought qubits for like $1.60, right? I'm not planning on selling qubits anytime. I have no idea if that thing's going to go to zero. I'm willing to ride out through every single upside cycle for the next 15 years, because I think quantum is going to run into a lot of headwinds and there's new stuff to come out, but I have that long-term vision for that. The question is going to be the same. If you think that SpaceX is a running dumpster fire, you wait for those massive spikes into 220 and you go, you know what? I'm going to take a little bet here, and I'm going to take a $1 bet that this thing moves $40 to the south. And that's how you play that game versus hey, let me see if I can swing the bat today and pull up XYZ and I'll try again tomorrow. My brain is already like a bowl of cottage cheese, and doing that would flatten it out in the sun, just melt it completely. So I just can't do it.
You have a way with words, Anne Marie. It is
Oh.
something else. Okay, really,
I
really
love
good.
cottage cheese.
Yeah, and me too. Really good breakdown there on SpaceX and 13. Great. See, this is why we brought you on for the Super Squad, is because
I love getting to
you
spend time
tied
with
those
13.
dates in. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's a great thought. And you know what else is going to happen, 13? I can predict the future better than my 8-ball. As we get closer to those dates, guess what we're going to do? We're going to be talking about those, and we're going to be talking about SpaceX and what do we think SpaceX is going to do. Now, at least we have a plan going out there. Okay, Anne Marie, we've got 5 minutes left. Looks like Palantir and Oracle are being suggested here in the chat. I think we took a look at one of those recently.
Palantir we looked at.
Yeah, so I think maybe go with Oracle here.
Sure.
And Ryan, do you still have your trend line on the underside of all the price action that we're now testing as resistance?
For Oracle?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we're right at the resistance area.
So Anne Marie, so real quick, let me just share this. This is what 13 is referencing. I know you're not the biggest trend line fan, but just so we're all on the same.
Only because I can't draw them.
Oh, just so we're on the same page here. So here's this trend line originates back in 2022, and it's acted as a super support trend line for Oracle. Super support for years. We recently broke it. Now we're trying to test it. So it's sure, if I zoom in on this, it sure looks to me like we are in a battle right here with about 147. So this is the trend line that 13 was referencing. We got moving average targets higher. That's great, but I just wanted to mention that. Go ahead, 13.
And with this in mind, what does let's also look at what 130 and 160 has for us too, because that would be the support if we can't break through it, and that's also the resistance if we do.
Okay, so the great thing is that is the VPOC, because you've got that volume profile sitting in there. That VPOC is sitting right at that trend line. So they are definitely going to argue about it. So yesterday, I was looking at all of the big volume trades that this particular chart had. And so coming into August expiration, they've sold the 155s and the 145s and the 140s. All of them. 40, 45, 55. Sell, sell, sell. Big numbers. 2,500 at a clip in a sweep, right? For these option trades. So they're doing two things. Whoever's doing this. They are trying to collect revenue in a space that's very near resistance zones, but potentially they're also to maybe looking to offload some stock if it comes in and they go, hey, listen, just go ahead and take it, right? A lot of different ways that we can look at. 136, I think, 13, you just said something about. What number was that?
If we don't get through this trend line and we come back in, 130 is support and 160 is resistance if we make it through the trend line.
Perfect. So here's what I'm seeing. The same sort of thing that you just talked about in terms of my multiplication event. Now, here's what we know. Money's moving back into software as a service. Oracle has been grossly oversold. Every single day, we see more and more stuff about their credit spreads blowing out and blah, 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 blah. So we see a lot of news. And that news continues to come out, but the price action is not following that news event. So when we get bad news after bad news after bad news, but the stock stops falling, it tells us that all that bad news is baked in and the media is just sort of recycling the event. So there's some thought to me that this is a generally bullish setup here, particularly for two things. My momentum indicator crossed over on the 3rd, which I liked. So pullbacks are going to be buy zones for me. And so I think that area right around 130 makes for a great pullback. So the question might be, well, how do you want to trade it? It's $15 above that right now. What kind of time do you want to give this? And that would mean I need to go to weekly chart to see how well they're building a base. And if they're building the base well, which they're still right in the middle of it, and let me do this. For my drawings, let me...
Emery, we got about 30 seconds left.
Oh,
Sorry to rush
okay.
you.
No worries. What I would suspect is the better thing to do would be say, you know what? I'm going to buy the dip, but if I buy it here, I'm going to put it further out in time. I'm going to give it until October, that midterm spike that we normally get into that space. But it looks like they're getting ready to get bought up because the bad news keeps coming and prices are going down.
And it's holding in there. Okay. Really, really good stuff. Thank you, Super Squad. This is fun. We ought to do it more often as your folks' schedule allow, not to put you guys on the spot, but thank you very much. 13, any closing words for the group here? Great week.
Oh, yeah. Fun week here. Great to have a super squad. Maybe something we could do on Fridays. Maybe.
Yep.
Look forward to it. But it's time for the weekend. So I'll see you later, folks. See you later, Anne-Marie and Ryan. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.
Take care, everybody.
We'll see you next week. Anne-Marie, have a great weekend. We will see you. And thank you for all of your help this week. I really appreciate it.
It's my joy. Love spending time with you.
All right. Take care, Anne-Marie. Now, Anne-Marie and 13's departure, don't worry. It leaves room for Paulo. Joe P. Golf. It's a good name. Guess what? It's time for Paulo. Let's bring him on. Let's see how he's doing. Paulo, how are you?
Hello, Ryan. How is it going? Can you hear me successfully?
Yes, it's going really good. I can hear you good. What do you got coming up for us?
Perfect. We're going to see some potential final lectures and also some important breakouts in software names. And of course, any request, any member could actually like to check into the charts.
Okay, perfect. Sounds like a loaded show. Trading Made Simple with Paulo starts right now.
Welcome back, traders. This is Sandra with Trading Made Simple. I'm here to show you short-term proven strategies. People think trading is a one-size-fits-all market. It's not. We live trade and train daily. Let's talk trading.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. How is it going? I hope we are all having a great week. And let's get started here with our usual market analysis. Let's see. We have very important setups for this week. As always, I will be sharing my favorite picks, my favorite stock picks for the upcoming weeks. And if anyone would like to ask for or request for any chart, any ticker, any stock that we would like to see or ETF, always feel more than welcome and encouraged to just type it in the chat room. I got the chat room here to the right so that we can also see any potential request any member could have. All right, so welcome everyone, and let's get started. All right, so first, of course, the most important, the S&P 500. So what is going on with the S&P 500? We have been following our Elliott wave structure, and we're going to have to review it one more time because so far it's still valid, it's still playing out, and it does seem that we could be starting the potential final fifth wave higher. All right. So in Elliott wave analysis, since it is a hypothesis, you cannot prove an Elliott wave analysis is correct. But what you can do, I see people there in the chat room remembering the names. Hello, how is it going? I see many of the names that we have been following with those moves for Marvell and other semis. We're going to see them too today, all right? Okay, so what is the important detail with the Elliott wave analysis? Is that you cannot confirm if a cycle is correct because it is a hypothesis. You can only reject it if it is actually getting invalidated. So what I like to compare Elliott wave analysis is I like to compare it to Sudoku. You know, that game that you write the numbers and you have the square, right? And the names cannot, so the numbers, I'm sorry, you do not know when you're just starting your Sudoku, right? If the number one goes maybe here or here, but what you do know is that it cannot be on the same column that another number one is, the same row that another number one is, or the same square. So you do not know where it goes, but you know where it cannot go, because there are certain rules that you cannot invalidate. And that's how you start filling it and filling it. And just at the end, when you have already filled all your Sudoku, you can see if it was correct or not, right? But in the moment, you are kind of speculating if a number could be here or there, and you're trying to avoid violating any of the important rules. And it's the same with the elliott wave analyses. In the moment, you cannot know if it is a confirmed wave 1, a confirmed wave 2, confirmed wave 3, but you can start drawing it and seeing and verifying that none of the important and strict rules are actually being invalidated. If they get invalidated, your count is incorrect. But while they are not invalidated, technically, the elliott wave structure would still be valid. One of the favorite golden rules I have for elliott wave analyses is the behavior of price against the RSI. Usually RSI in the weekly time frame on the beginning of an elliott wave cycle goes from oversold all the way into overbought. Wave 2 goes back into equilibrium. Wave 3 is the highest point on the RSI indicator. Wave 4 goes back to equilibrium, and wave 5 has a bearish divergence against price, where RSI momentum does a lower high while price does a higher high. Then we had our 5-point here correction. Then we had here the second cycle with the same RSI behavior. RSI behavior on the wave 1 going from oversold into overbought. Wave 2 back into equilibrium. Wave 3 has the highest point on the indicator. Wave 4 goes back to equilibrium, and wave 5 has higher prices with lower momentum. And that signaled that this elliott wave structure, this previous cycle, was ending. We had our liberation day crash. I call it a liquidation day crash. And then we started again, a brand new cycle. We had from oversold into overbought for wave 1. Wave 2 back into equilibrium. Wave 3 has the highest point on the RSI indicator. That is one of the reasons when the market was consolidating and going through pullbacks here in the past weeks, we were looking at this as a potential wave 4. Now that we are actually breaking higher, it does seem that we could be on a wave 5. Maybe this could be a running flat correction in which we have not yet ended wave 4. And we actually maybe do, let me draw it here, but this is just speculation. Maybe we do a running flat correction like this, an A, B, C, and then we actually start wave 5. We cannot know that in advance. We have to follow it day by day. But even if that happens, it does seem that we would be going on the potential final fifth wave higher. If that is the case, even though I don't like to look and call for potential tops, what cannot happen, all right, if we are already on wave 5, is that wave 3 cannot be the smallest, and wave 1 was already extended and it was the biggest. So there is where an important golden rule for elliott wave analysis applies. Being 3 smaller than 1, wave 5 has to be smaller than 3. So that would set a potential target at 8,600 here for the S&P 500. If this is already wave 5, maybe we could still be in a correction, a running flat correction. You have your first wave lower, the recovery rebounds, does a higher high, and then you have another wave of selling. I wouldn't rule that out. But my point is, it does seem we could have some more weeks, some more month of bull market, but I do think there are certain sectors in which we should already start thinking a potential exit strategy. I want to also show here the Dow. So the Dow, same behavior. Why is it not showing my chart? 1 second. Okay, here it is. So for the Dow, we have the same structure. We're not reviewing the previous bull markets, but this one, wave 1 going from oversold into overbought, wave 2 back into equilibrium, wave 3 has the highest point on the RSI indicator, and we have not yet corrected. We have still not gone for a wave 4 on the Dow. So that signals a potential rotation into tech, and I will show you NASDAQ coming soon. But it does seem that this could be the potential wave 3 for the Dow. So I would be looking for a wave 4 correction for the Dow going here. All right, it doesn't have to be a crash, maybe just a flat correction. But when we go into the NASDAQ, what we see is that the NASDAQ is already potentially ending wave 4. We have a clear ABC here. So same scenario with the RSI. From oversold to overbought, wave 1, 2 back to equilibrium. Wave 3 has the highest point on the RSI indicator. Wave 4 goes back to equilibrium. And if we start breaking into brand new all-time highs with the NASDAQ, and we see a bearish divergence on the RSI, that's going to be confirming the potential wave 5. And we already got the bearish divergence here. This is a higher high for the S&P 500 on the weekly time frame. We already got a lower low. So the indices do seem that we are going into the potential final 5th wave higher. All right. And the same applies here to semiconductors. We're bringing SMH. We have also been calling this semiconductor correction as a potential wave 4. It has not yet been confirmed. It has not yet been confirmed because we have not yet broken into higher highs. But wave 1, as we mentioned, usually goes from oversold to overbought. Wave 2 back into equilibrium. Wave 3 has the highest point on the RSI indicator. Wave 4 goes back into equilibrium. And wave 5 should have the bearish divergence against price. I also do think we are about to see a strong recovery in semiconductors because we can see here this big volume spike. This is a huge volume spike that is going on in the weekly volume bars, and that comes right after this candlestick, which was probably a liquidation candlestick with everything going on with situational awareness and Leopold and all that. And I do think that reflects a bit the current sentiment. I do think those margin calls triggered for many retail traders too. All right. And we see that big volume there and a bullish engulfing in the weekly after. So the only thing that actually looks macro bullish for semiconductors is this big volume. This big volume on that potential liquidation kind of signals that we could see more upside for semiconductors. But then on the other hand, we do have the cycle, the Elliott wave cycle, which actually seems quite strong. And let's check also AMD and Marvell. I'm still on Marvell. I do think this is a wave 4 correction. We have the same on the indicator, overbought, then back to equilibrium, wave 3 highest point. I don't like the big volume bars here, indicating a bit of buyer's climax. But as the broad market also shows, I personally think this would be a wave 4 for Marvell, and my potential target would be somewhere around a 350 to 400 per share. So if we start breaking higher on a confirmed wave 5 with a bearish divergence on the RSI, I would be getting out of Marvell. So my potential final target, I would say, would be in between 350 and 400. This is where I would be looking to get out of Marvell. We see here the same for AMD, potential wave 5 with potential wave 4, same behavior on the RSI, from oversold to overbought, back into equilibrium. Wave 3 has the highest point on the RSI indicator. My potential target for AMD could be located somewhere around the 600s, maybe even 700 if we go to the 1.6, but we should be hitting the 6 if wave 1 at least is the same, if wave 5 has the same length as wave 1. So I personally, this is just, of course, my personal opinion. I do think we still have bull market left in semiconductors, but if we start breaking into higher highs with bearish divergences in the momentum indicators, I would be looking to start unloading some of those positions, maybe closing some, not a specific full exit on a single session, but maybe starting reducing a bit or a lot semiconductors exposure. All right. So now let's actually deep wave 4 in Marvell. Yes. One more thing about this, why I do think this is the wave 4 for Marvell. In Elliott wave analysis, there is the alternation principle. It's a very important rule. And the alternation principle mentions, of course, it doesn't have to be validated exactly on each count, but usually there's two corrective waves, 2 and 4. Usually the alternation principle mentions if one correction is a flat correction, the other should be a sharp correction. If one correction is a sharp correction, the other should be a flat. That's exactly what we have on Marvell. Wave 2 was a flat correction being validated by and wave 4 was a sharp one here. So yes, that's what we got on semiconductors. Now let's show some of my favorite stock picks, and then we're going with the request. My favorite stock pick right now remains ServiceNow. I have been increasing my position. This is currently my favorite pick right now. We got an inverse head and shoulders forming here, and I just really love this chart. We got a potential 5-wave, either wave bear market completed. We got the big bullish divergence. It's a lower low against a higher low on the RSI. Not only that, RSI broke out of its own descending trend line. Not only that, it even made a higher high here. But we have not yet broken above price in that higher high. So this is bullish confirmation in the weekly RSI. All that is coming with huge volume candlesticks. Huge volume bars indicating accumulation, and the volume histogram is showing that the price that potentially big money actually built positions for ServiceNow would be 105. So we can see here the price is 105. That is what the histogram tells us. Then the bars tell us it was right here. So I do think they were buying it here, and I do want to show one more thing here. Let's see if it is still valid, all right? But we're going here into Yahoo Finance. We're going into ServiceNow. Insider transactions, past 6 months, is it still bullish? And yes, it is. We have 500,000 purchases against 45,000 sales. That gives us a net purchase of basically 500,000. Insiders are holding 1.7 million. So that represents 40% of the total insider shares. Of the total shares that insiders are currently holding, all right, from the total shares currently that insiders are currently holding, 40% was bought on the previous 6 months. We are August, right? So that goes to February. When was February? February was it here? Yep. This is where February starts. So right here, ServiceNow insiders bought 40% of what they are currently holding. And we see the volume is validating, and we see the histogram too, and momentum is ripping higher. We're having a bullish MACD crossover on the weekly. Histogram is rising. I just couldn't be more bullish on ServiceNow. Of course, that doesn't mean all in, absolutely not, but I do think this stock is actually going higher. And the same we see here for other software. Let's see IGV. For IGV, we also see the volume. We're breaking out. Seems this is a wave 2 correction. I also want to show the biggest holding on IGV would be Microsoft, and that's what we're seeing. It's software stocks rally. See? 5-wave correction for Microsoft, the bullish divergence, the MACD crossover, momentum breaking higher, double bottom, breakaway gap. It was yesterday almost, right? When we were at 350. We are basically back to all-time highs for Microsoft. So I do think even though semiconductors still have some more bull market left, right now I would be focusing on semiconductors. Another of my favorite picks would be Salesforce. It seems we just completed a 5-point correction. Let me delete this. We have a bullish MACD crossover with rising histogram. We got the RSI breaking out with strong bullish divergence here. All these lower lows on the weekly against higher lows. We broke out on the RSI. I would also be bullish in Salesforce. Now let's leave some time here for some of the requests. I see a request for Snow. We're going with all of them. I think we have time. But let's start, since we're speaking about software, let's start here with Snow. So for Snow, this does look like an IPO into accumulation. We had the IPO. We went to a bear market that kind of like ended on 2022. And then we had all this potential sideways stage 1 accumulation. Why I do think this was an accumulation is because we can see the big volume here. We can also see the histogram. Let's go back to the weekly. Histogram was indicating that potentially big money builded the position around 150. This is the level where most transactions happen. Now we're breaking out from a descending trend line. Since its IPO, we have four important validations in the weekly time frame. We even got a double bottom. We broke out. Bollinger Bands are still expanding, indicating rising volatility for the stock. So I do think this is a wave one. I do think this is a wave one also, from oversold to overbought. Maybe we're going to have a pullback like wave 2, then wave 3, 4, and 5. I do think snow, we're going to see it brand new all-time highs. Not on a straight line, but I do think this Elliott wave cycle that appears to be developing for Snowflake, I do think it's going to bring us to all-time highs. Let me go here 1 second all the way up. Yes, we have a request here for Nebius. Ooh. All right, this one is a bit more difficult. We had it charted, I see. What I want to see if this was wave 1. Oh. This one is a bit more hard to read because this is a big bearish divergence. And this is the highest point on the indicator. So there could be the possibility, since this was still a higher low, that this was wave 1, wave 2, 3, 4, and 5. The indicator would be validating that. And we just had a bearish MACD crossover. The histogram is still falling, so that kind of shows increasing downside momentum. This one does seem that it could be ready to face some more weakness. I wouldn't be that sure on my Elliott wave structure, but the indicator would be validating it. But we could have just completed a cycle for this one. All right. And if we need more, service now, we just check it. Let's see here. Semi seem to be taking back seat on leadership. They're recovering, but I do think we're going to see leadership in other tech stocks. All right. Let's see here any other requests we might have. NVTS, of course. I think we have time for all of them. NVTS, Navita Semiconductor Corporation. This is an outdated chart, but we did broke out. Let's delete it. This would be wave 4. I think it's clear. Wave 1 going from oversold to overbought. Wave 2 back to equilibrium. Wave 3 has the highest point on the RSI indicator. In this case, even though this is a sharp drop, I wouldn't be that bearish on it because the higher high had the higher point confirmation on the RSI. So I do think this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And keeping in mind that semiconductors still kind of look, even though I don't follow this ticker, I would think that the broad scenario that we're seeing on semiconductors, on SMH, also on individual stocks like AMD, Marvell, Broadcom, Taiwan Semiconductor, all those look like we're starting a wave 5. So I would understand that Navita Semiconductor Corporation would be very correlated to those other names. So I do think that reinforces what the RSI is signaling, that we could go for a final one, a final rally here. Yes, maybe. Some market participants should have gone with a hedge for the wave 4. Let's see, Rocket Lab. Yes, we can absolutely see Rocket Lab. I thought it was bearish last time I saw it. Well, last time we saw it, it was kind of here. We completed the Elliott wave cycle. Stage 1 accumulation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with bearish divergences. Now we have retraced a lot. We have retraced from 150. It's more than a 50% drop. So keeping that in mind, this could have already been an yield wave correction. I mean, yeah, we dropped 60% from all-time highs. All right, so the cycle ended, but we could still maybe see more downside, even though we already retraced enough. So it's not like I would be saying the start of a correction on yield wave. I think if we're still correcting, we would be closer to the end. But we are dropping on momentum. This is a clear breakdown on RSI. So my concern with Rocket Lab is if we're starting a new yield wave cycle, I would like to see the RSI jumping from oversold into overbought. I'm not a big fan of yield wave cycles when they start at the midpoint on the RSI. Usually in the weekly time frame, the common behavior would be for a yield wave cycle to start on oversold. So I do think Rocket Lab could still drop and go to oversold. All right. Now the MACD is trying to reverse too. So at least the MACD is trying to flip bullish here. We just saw snow, and yes, of course, we have time for ALAB, and I think we also had a request for Broadcom, right? Let's see here, Astera Labs, wave 4. Wait a minute. Well, first, this chart is so outdated. I don't know when we were drawing it. All right, there's a concern with Astera Labs is that this seems to be the wave 3 because of the highest point on the RSI indicator. This is still a higher low, wave 1 from oversold, overbought. Then here kind of equilibrium, wave 3, equilibrium, wave 5 has the thing going on here with Astera Labs that I don't like is that we have a higher high. We have a higher high with the big bearish divergence. And we just had a bearish MACD crossover. There could also be the possibility, maybe this was a wave 1 and wave 2. This could be a wave 3 and 4. That could still be. But it's not that clear. I think it would be closer to. For this one, you know what we can do? Is we can bring the insider information. Usually on wave 5, we also have insider selling. Insider activity for A-Lab, purchases 300,000, sales 2.7 million. That represents 11.50%. It's not a lot, but insiders sold 10%, 11.5% of what they were holding. It's not a lot. That's not like a wow, my God, this is the most bearish signal ever. But what that does tell me is that it was probably the wave 5 because in wave 5 usually insiders sell. We're seeing the insider selling. Not the same as for Marvell because Marvell on wave 4. Let's see if this is still valid. Marvell in wave 4. Still has here the buy, still has here 31%. We still have 1.7 million purchases against 200,000 sales here. So Marvell still shows the insider buying. That's the reason I do think we could still have a final wave 5 higher. I think we have time for one more. Let me see here. All right, we have a question here for now. Let's go back to now. And we also have a question. I mean, we completed 5 and recent dip is a wave 2 of the first cycle. Let me give it a check here. All right. Oh, you mean for Rocket Lab, maybe? All right. Let's give it one quick check to Broadcom, and then we're going 1 minute back to now. So for Broadcom, this one is a bit more difficult because wave 1 has the highest point on the RSI indicator. And this wave 3 would be a bit small. I do think still this is wave 3, wave 4 going back into equilibrium. But sometimes, in this case, for example, in our previous cycle for Broadcom, the highest point on the indicator was also in wave 1. Wave 1, highest point, back to equilibrium, wave 3, bearish divergences. So we actually see that Broadcom in their Elliott wave structures, the highest point on the RSI is wave 1. That's what we're seeing this cycle. So it's not that it has to be a strict rule that the RSI is the strongest in wave 3. It can sometimes also be on RSI, but my point is the stocks usually repeat their same behaviors. I would say Broadcom wave 5. And finally, we got a minute. We have a question here for ServiceNow. How far out calls? All right, so I don't like to time the market, so I couldn't tell you calls. Of course, this is not financial advice. I wouldn't say calls for 1 month, 6 month, leaps 1 year out. But what I could tell you is that I do think ServiceNow is the strongest setup I'm seeing. That doesn't mean it's the strongest setup that's going to happen in the market. Just from all the stocks I follow, I view it as the strongest one. And the Bollinger Bands are just starting to squeeze. We're just starting to squeeze. The same we had for Microsoft. See? Bollinger Bands starting to squeeze and boom. And with what we're seeing on IGV, in software stocks, this one is very strong. It has everything. Fundamentals, we don't even have to see them. They are very good. We have the strong volume coming on the completed final fifth wave of final 5-wave bear market. And what we're seeing on the RSI breakout momentum, this is really amazing for me. This very strong bullish divergence with the breakout. See how momentum is going so strongly to the upside here. We're breaking into new highs on the RSI. We have not yet broken into new highs in price, but the RSI is already, and usually momentum precedes price. We got the volume, we got the MACD bullish crossover, histogram rising. I would say we're still on wave 1 for ServiceNow, plenty upside. My price target for ServiceNow is all-time highs. I do think at least we're retesting all-time highs. But let's see. It's always a day-by-day market. So that would be all for today. I stole a minute. It does appear this might be the final wave 5 for maybe the indices, maybe semiconductor stocks. What I do think is that we're going to see the market rotating out. So I don't think if the Elliott wave analysis is correct and we are on wave 5, I don't think there's going to be a day that it's going to be like the top. This was the top and everything at all-time highs. I do think the market is going to distribute a bit. So we're going to see different market sectors topping one by one. That's why we're seeing that semiconductors might be on final fifth wave higher. And I do think semiconductors will be the first market sector to top if this Elliott wave analysis is correct and we're getting closer to completion. I do think semiconductors will be the first sector to top, but there's some other sectors that could actually still have more bull market. So I do think we're going to see some rotation. It's important to follow closely individual stocks. All right, that will be all for today. I would like to thank you everyone for participating, for your attendance as well. I would like also to thank Benzinga, the Benzinga team, Ryan, Aaron, everyone for inviting us here on Fridays. If you would like to see more about our work, you can check our website, tradingmadesimple.org. We have live trading sessions, training, coaching sessions available, many features for our members. Thank you, everyone, and see you in the next session. Remember, careful with semiconductors, and I would be taking risks in software stocks. Thank you, everyone. Have a